All right, we'll call the meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is that one of our two meetings a year that we have smaller facilities and where we have a number of people attending. I appreciate your patience, but also appreciate the great turnout at our new starting time of 6 p.m. for our action meetings. So with that, Mr. Secretary, do we have any citizen requests to speak about non-action items? All right. Then we can go straight to the recognitions, and first up is the STEM teams. Who is presenting? Is that Sandy? All right,
Yes,
very
thank
good. I'll
you.
turn over to you.
All right, and we'll ask our two teams, our first and second place teams, to come up by the mic, please. Two teams from Hudson Middle School have swept state in the Cyber Mission STEM competition. The first place team took on the challenge of providing safe drinking water to people around the world in an inexpensive and environmentally friendly way. The second place team, STEM Solvers, based the project on pumpkins and ways to use unwanted pumpkins. Both teams are led by engineering teacher Chris DeLeon. Congratulations to you. Ladies, will you please introduce yourselves at the mic? And I think they're prepared to share a little bit about what they did. These were like year-long. They did their competition, kind of designing their end product and competing. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Ella Sutherland.
There you go. Thank you. Steph.
I'm Sadie Heading. I'm Annika Lautenbach.
Yeah, you could do yours. You're the solvers, right?
Yeah, we're the
Yep.
STEM solvers.
Okay. Do you want to describe a little bit about your experience?
Over the last 9 months, our team has been working on a project for the Cyber Mission, which is a competition between student groups all over America. We placed second in state. The task was to solve a problem that affected our community. We wanted to help manage areas facing drought conditions. To solve this problem, we created a powder that is made from pumpkin. To create the powder, we took a large orange pumpkin and cut it into several chunks. We then used a deli slicer to create several thinner slices. We put the thin slices on a dehydrator to dry the slices out. We dehydrated them for about a day. Then we took the dried slices and weighed them before putting them into a blender to make a soft powdery substance.
Our design was originally made for attaining water, and our pumpkin powder has the capability to soak up 6 times its weight. And after the pumpkin's dehydrated, the powder is hydrophilic, meaning the particles absorb water. After researching, we thought about all of the water that goes into agriculture, and there's about an average of 69% of fresh water that goes towards agriculture. At the time, the drought in California was raging, and we wanted to use our powder to try and solve their incapability of growing plants and crops. So we experimented with grass as our crop, and we put the pumpkin in the dirt and grass seed on top. We watered the grass as long as it was healthy and green, and we did the same thing with the control without the pumpkin. And then with both of the cups, we put them through the conditions of a drought to see if they could survive. We also tested the position of the pumpkins, and we found out that having the layer an inch or so under the dirt worked best because that's where the roots are, so the water would get to the roots easier. The water would go into the dirt, and the layer of pumpkin would soak it up and expand. The grass would take whatever it needed and leave the rest for later, therefore lasting a month without having to irrigate the grass. And after a month, the pumpkin was still healthy and better than the control we did.
Over the last 9 months, we had a lot of experiences during our project, as a team, as individuals, and as friends. One being on February 2nd, I believe, our school held a program called Women in STEM, and we were asked to present. It was so much fun presenting to all the different people and seeing kids' eyes light up with excitement. This project has taught us what it is like to work as a team, how to solve problems we never thought we could solve. I am glad I got to work with such amazing people that I'm proud of my teammates, but even more my friends. If our STEM team can help solve something like this as 8th graders, think of all the possibilities that other kids can have. There are so many kids with so much potential if they just think about what they can do and believe in themselves. I never thought I could do this big of a project, but all I needed to do was believe in myself, and I'll just think about what I could do. The most common reason people don't want to participate in a project like this is because they don't think they're smart enough. You don't need to be a science whiz or a mathematician to figure out a hard problem. You just need to try your hardest, and if you still can't figure it out, look at it from a different point of view or ask for help. And also don't be afraid to ask for help. During our project, we asked many different people and teachers to read through our paper and see if there are any grammar mistakes, and they're always glad to help. One teacher that was a big help, and that was also our mentor, Mr. De Leon, was always there for us when we had a question, and we could not thank him enough. Thank you for your help, Mr. De Leon, and thank you for letting us talk about ourselves.
Yeah, ladies, if you just, you have one more comment?
And another teammate, Lily Anderson, isn't here, but she was a big part of our team.
Oh, sure.
Right.
Thank you. Thanks for doing that. All right, and then our first place team also wants to describe their competition.
I'm Adrian. I'm Isabel.
I'm Julia.
I'm Ainsley.
And ours.
And we're on Astro.
As you may know, clean water is a large issue around the world. So our main goal in this project was to find an inexpensive method to filter water that would be accessible to many people and also eco-friendly. We learned about filters that are distributed to those who don't have access to fresh water and thought, well, what if there's a solution in your backyard?
Our project was originally conceived when one of our group members had a hard-boiled egg for lunch. This spurred on a conversation about how eggshells might be able to filter water. We thought this because there are pores in the shells which air can pass through for the developing chick.
The next months were filled with experiments and puns. One of our first experiments was where we simply put water in an eggshell. This proved that eggshells have pores which can allow water to pass through them. From then on, we started our main experiment, taking a large sample of pond water from a local pond and testing it for safety. Then we took multiple eggshells, with and without membranes, and had the pond water filter through them. Then we tested the water that had filtered through them.
So, at the end of our experiment, we conclude that non-membrane eggshells filtered nitrate out better than membrane eggshells, while membrane eggshells did better in filtering out nitrite. Total alkalinity improved by far larger margins, as well as other compounds. This data proves that filtering water through eggshells makes it considerably safer for human consumption and maybe fish too, because it was fish bar strips.
With an essay we created analyzing our data and research, our team won the state competition and moved on to regionals, which included the top teams from 11 states in the Midwest. We then became regional finalists, meaning we have become one of the top 3 teams in the region.
So we put together a presentation to present to various government officials, officers, and workers for the opportunity to move on to nationals for eCyber Mission. Unfortunately, we didn't make it there, but as a team, we won $8,000 in total for how far we had gotten. And even though it was hard and there were many setbacks, we still had a lot of fun with our project.
We would like to thank Mr. De Leon once again for helping us get through our project, inspiring us, and just being awesome overall. He's an amazing teacher, and we never could have gotten this done without his guidance and support. Thanks, Mr. De Leon.
Any questions
Okay.
or
Yeah, board
comments?
members, do you have any questions for either of the teams? I guess,
Unless you're a
my
science
question is, what
major.
are they going to use the money, what are they going to do with the money? should have guessed. Any other comments?
Mr. President.
Yes, Rob.
So, I mean, eggshells. When I eat eggs, I'm not thinking they're porous, then they'll help me filter water. So, I mean, really, how did you come across? I'm going to ask something similar of you all with the pumpkin. I mean, of how did you come to that starting point? It's amazing.
Yeah. Are you okay. Well, after we had kind of like had this like eggshell idea, we kind of started like looking into like what it was made of. And while we were researching, we noticed that eggshells are made of the same stuff that makes up limestone. And then we got to thinking about how limestone allows water to pass through it, and that's how a lot of caves are formed. And that spurred on more research about how water could probably pass through eggshells and maybe keep larger compounds which are harmful to health out.
And we got on the idea of pumpkins because during Halloween or fall, there's a lot of pumpkin waste because there's proteins in the pumpkins, so they never really break down fully. And so the main idea was to both reduce the waste of pumpkins and to solve droughts. So, yeah.
Mr. President, how many hours did you guys spend on this? Because it was like a lot of hours, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Pretty much every day during lunch throughout the school year, we brought our lunches down to Mr. De Leon's room, starting about, I don't know, like a month into the school year until like the end. Not even.
Maybe like two
A couple of weeks into the school year.
Yeah.
So every day we'd go down for lunch and we'd work on it there.
And then when the report started, then it was like our entire lives.
We started, so the first trimester, I had Mr. De Leon as a teacher, and he announced it. And so the first day of school, I think I got the team together and we started working. So, yeah.
I think you made the comment that it was, maybe people didn't think they were smart enough to do it, but some people don't have the stick-to-itiveness to stay with it, and you guys did that, and it's pretty impressive. And it takes hard work to get ahead, and you guys showed that the hard work that you put in can pay off. So, congratulations, nice job.
Yeah, great job. And I have to comment too, as a nod to my feminist wife, the notion that girls aren't participating in STEM. I think we're dissolving that notion
We're
quite
breaking, yeah.
solidly now. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
How many of you, do any of you know yet what you're going to be going into when you're through high school and out? Well, tell us, what are you,
Well, I know that in high school I'm going to be in the STEM Academy.
oh,
And
great.
so, yeah.
That means that there's an engineer degree in your future, right?
Yeah.
How about the
Right.
rest of you?
What I'd like to go to college to be an astrophysicist.
Oh, jeez,
Okay. I think that's STEM related. Yeah.
just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I'm also going into the STEM Academy. I'm kind of pursuing the same career path as Julia, somewhere around that.
Very good.
I would either like to go into animal science or become a bioengineer. So it would be kind of a cross between the two.
Outstanding. We'll see your names then in about 10 years in print in
Yes.
some big project, and we're going to say, they went to Hudson.
That's right.
Ainsley, do you
girls.
know?
So I think I'm going into the STEM Academy, and I'd like to become a part-time writer and go into the star field, probably astrophysics again.
All right. Excellent. Great job. Well, thank you very much, and
Thank
thanks
you.
for making Hudson a district proud. Thank you.
All right. Next, we'd like to bring Nicholas Hansen. Ask Nicholas to come up to the microphone. Nicholas Hansen, junior at Hudson High School, or just completed junior year at Hudson High School, earned the highest possible ACT composite score of 36. The ACT consists of tests in English, mathematics, reading, and science. Each test is scored on a scale of 1 to 36, and a student's composite score is the average of the 4 test scores. Nationally, while the actual number of students earning a composite score of 36 varies from year to year, on average, less than 0.1% of students who take the ACT earn the top score. Nicholas, congratulations. If you'd like, please share. Oh, let's do Please share how you may have prepared for the ACT. And then if you have any ideas after you complete your senior year next year, possible majors or colleges you might be interested in. And you can move that mic piece up, and you're a little taller than those ladies.
Okay, I didn't. So my main studying was I just took a book. I happened to have an ACT book laying around, and I kind of just leafed through it. I went through some of the chapters that I thought I was weak in, like English and reading. Those are the two hard ones for me. But otherwise, I didn't really do anything else. I had taken the ACT previously, though. I took it in 7th grade. It was like a whole program at my old school where they had all the 7th graders take the ACT. And then I also took a practice test my sophomore year. So I'd already taken it before, so I kind of knew what to expect on the test. But otherwise, those were the only times.
All right.
I take
And any ideas after your senior year?
Okay, so I've been looking at some colleges. Some of them are Ivy League colleges, like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, those types. And I've been wanting to go into STEM and the sciences, so those are all good choices. And also I've been looking at MIT, which is a technical school, so it's also another good choice for STEM majors.
Okay. Any other comments, questions for Nicholas?
Sandy.
Another example of what we do in Hudson. Thank you. You're really a very exemplary idea of what goes on here.
Thank you.
Outstanding.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. Thank you very much, Nick. Congratulations.
It just keeps going tonight. Next, we want to invite our Destination Imagination Global Final teams up to the front, please. For 13 years in a row, Hudson has sent at least one Destination Imagination team to Global Finals. This year, Hudson sent 5 teams to Globals in Knoxville, Tennessee, the end of May. So what I'm going to do, we'll just start at the top. So the first team is a high school team, A Story of Love Lost in Lard. So I'm going to let that team introduce themselves, the members that are here, and then tell us a little bit, what competition did you participate in?
Okay, my name is Kate Malinofi. The members that aren't here are Elliot Wareham, Ethan Kepulis, Sam Allen, and Emily Schlepp.
And I'm Grace Kazak.
The challenge that we chose this year was the Fine Arts Challenge, and the premise of it was what would happen if a certain color disappeared from the world. And the color we chose was black, and we did some science, and we figured that if black disappeared, every color would disappear except for white, because black is the absorption of all colors. And when you see a color, it's really the absorption of that color. So if you're getting rid of black, then you're going to get rid of every color. So we kind of just explored the idea without darkness, there is no contrast, like there's no life in anything. So it was kind of like that, I guess.
Yeah, and so what we did with that, basically we had some wacky characters, and we kind of took place in the 80s because we figured the 80s is a more
It's our last year, so we can have fun with it.
Yeah, and we've been a team for about 9 years, and
since 4th grade.
yeah, and so once the color black disappeared in our world, we had to explain how it affected the society around it, and so we turned it into shadow puppet theater. So we did Chinese shadow puppets to tell the rest of the story after the color disappeared.
Yeah.
And so we've been pretty successful as a team. This is our 5th year going to globals as a team, and we've always placed fairly well. And
Last year we got 2nd. We went hard last year.
Yeah, it's a worldwide competition, and there's 3 different levels. There's regionals,
Which is
and
like your regional, like in your state, and
Yep.
then you go on to state, and
and
then
then
it's globals.
yeah, if you get like top 3, you go on to global finals, which is teams from all around the world, not just the United States.
There's Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Guatemala, Poland, Mexico, China, South Korea, and there's a few more, but I can't remember.
Yeah, so yeah, and this year we placed very well for our last year. We got 4th in the world, and we got 1st place in
There's 2 components to the overall score, and one is the main challenge, which is the skit, which is what we told you guys about. And then there's the instant challenge, where you go into a room and you're presented with a challenge that you're expected to solve in a few minutes. And we placed 1st in our instant challenge this year.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we prepare for 7 months with our actual skit, our main performance. And then yeah, pretty much our instant challenge is when we get to the competition, it's random. We have no idea
you
like
don't know
what
what's
it's gonna
gonna
be, and we only have about like 5 minutes really to do it. It could be either acting or you have to build a structure. And this year, our Global's instant challenge that we won was pretty interesting.
It was, we had to build a structure on a hammock, and the hammock, they would move it, and it had to stay standing. And so what we did was we made a cone out of paper, and then we put a paper clip through the cone, the top of the cone. And then we also had a straw on that paper clip, so if you can envision that, like, this is the cone, there was a paper clip going through, and then the straw was there, and the straw would pivot on the paper
Yeah.
clip.
Nice.
And we put weight on the bottom, so it stayed upright as the bottom of the structure was moving on the hammock.
Nice.
We just built up, and there was points for like max height and keeping it standing and stuff, and so we ended up getting about, I think it was like 90 something out of 100.
Yeah, like 92 points I think it was.
All right.
So
Wow.
yeah, so out of all the teams from around the world, we somehow
Somehow.
we pulled it off. It turned out really well thanks to one of our teammates who's a genius. So and we all have to like have good teamwork and stuff as well. So
Oh, yeah, after that long together, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And then your manager is Kathy Kepulis.
Yes.
So she's been around. All right, the next high school team. One, I need you to tell me, how do you say your name?
Control DI.
All right, all right. And this team is managed by Paulette Mergendahl and Lori Seath, if I said that right. So who on the team's with us this evening?
All right, so my name is Cal Mergendahl. I'm Nels Bentley.
And I'm Noah Malik, and Ethan Seth is the one not here.
Okay.
He's at a soccer game. Yeah. He unfortunately couldn't make it. He's a busy guy.
They're all working.
Yeah.
And what challenge did you do?
We did the scientific challenge, which was designed around codes and cryptography. So the idea was to send a secret message and then be able to decrypt that message so that it could be read and understood by everybody else. And on site, we were also given a message that to encrypt and decrypt in a special way. We would have no idea what this message was until we got on site and were performing. So there's a little bit of preparation involved, but there's also a lot of you just have to be ready for anything.
All right, thank you. Next, we have a middle school team, a Midsummer Nights team, managed by Liz Malanafi.
My name is Jasper Halverson.
My name is Elizabeth Ere.
And you can adjust the mic.
I'm Brayden Omke.
We don't have Jacob Cutterly, Abby Kanoki, and Cecilia McMenamin. They just didn't come.
And what challenge did you do?
We did the same as them. We did Top Secret, and so the scientific challenge. And so with ours, we did like a spin-off of Romeo and Juliet, but we incorporated music into it too. And so we had our two characters sending for our messages, sending it across to each other using xylophones. So each letter of the alphabet would be a different note on the xylophone that we built ourselves. And for our Instacrypt message, we did using a musical staff, and so each letter would be a quarter note or a half note on that would go to a letter.
Very nice, thank you. Middle school team Lumpy Wombats, managed by Karen and Joel Porter.
I'm Lainey. And I'm Elena. And the people who aren't here are Elliot Ankfer, Tygo Kelly, and Jackson Seguin. So what we did show and tech. And that's the technical challenge. So we made a circus where a grandma lost her grandson in the circus. So she had to go all over the circus to find him, and there was a lot of different technical effects, like our curtain. We made it open by dumping balls through a tube, and it dropped into a bucket that pulled a pulley, and it made it open. And then we made a cart powered by a drill, so the chuck of the drill was pushed into a wheel, and when you push the trigger on the drill, it made it move. So we could actually put someone in there, and that was our stage. So yeah.
And then we also had one elementary team that went to Global's Willow River Elementary. So just to let you know, there were 5 teams. Questions and comments for these?
Mr. President, Sue.
Go ahead, Rob. Oh,
go
okay. Well, of course, your lives fit with my life because I like to restructure the expression thinking outside of the box. It's like thinking outside of the amorphic shape. You know, that's what you guys are doing, and it's an element that's important to accomplishing any kind of problem solving or creative thinking, and so we need people like you, along with the scientists and the mathematics and the data collecting and the, statistics and so on. So appreciate your accomplishments. And I suggested to Liz Manafee that maybe we should get some kind of a timeshare place in Knoxville for the next few years. Thank you very much.
If you guys don't mind, I made a post on Instagram when we were done. I was feeling very sentimental because it's been a big part of my life for like 12 years now. Since I was able to participate, I think I've been participating. And so I just wanted to read this because I think it really just like encapsulates what it's all about. Okay, so it reads, "Tonight, with the conclusion of Global Finals, we said goodbye to DI, at least as participants. For anyone who doesn't know, this program has been an incredibly important part of my life since I can remember. It has taught me to fill any role, solve any problem, or tackle any challenge set out in front of me, not only effectively, but with innovation as well. It has shaped me immensely as a human and will forever impact the way I see the world and interact with those around me. I have learned to treat others with respect, to give everyone a voice, to see solutions where others may not, and to never stop creating. Destination Imagination is slowly making the world a more beautiful place, and I cannot wait to pass the Hudson DI torch on to the younger teams in our district and cross over from participant to volunteer. I hope to go even further with this program and help future DIers find as much value in it as I did."
Well said.
Good.
Mr. President?
Rob, did you have a comment?
Yeah. And so at Globals, how many teams did each of you compete against?
74 were in our challenge. I think you guys had like 58, 56. 81. We had 81 last year.
Yeah.
50 some for those guys, yeah.
Mr. President?
Challenge C is the
Yes,
biggest.
Sandy.
Yeah, no, I was gonna, Laney, how many did you guys compete? 81. And what about the elementary level? Do we have
I
an idea?
don't know.
About the same? Okay,
Usually around 50 to 90, I think,
Yeah.
anywhere in
that's incredible. Incredible.
Well, I have to tell you, I have a granddaughter who went to Amory and went to Global Finals with a team from Amory about 6 years ago. And of course, as a good grandma, I and my husband got in the car and we drove down there to see this. I'd never heard about this. It was unbelievable. It was such an experience. You guys are really special. And the best part for her was the instant challenge thing, because that really made you think on your feet.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how proud we are of you.
Definitely
Oh,
impacted
yeah.
us a lot.
Yeah, and I couldn't, when I was there, all of these groups of kids sitting all over this huge big building, selling the pins and
Yeah,
trading
the
the
pin
pins. It
trading, yeah,
became a
super
trading
fun,
thing.
yeah.
It was a great experience.
Yeah, there's a lot to do. It's honestly, it's so much fun to go to Global Finals. Like, when you're not competing, there's so much you can do around campus.
And did you meet a lot of kids from other countries? Because she
Yeah.
did. She
Uh-huh.
still has
There's
connections
like a
with
buddy
them.
team program where you get paired up with a team from another country.
Yep.
We did that 2 years, I think. We
Yeah.
were with a team from South Korea our very first year, and then our sophomore year we were with a team from Singapore.
Yeah,
It was
it's,
really
it's quite a program, so
Yeah.
congratulations to all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And I know that this can be like a family event. How many of the participants had at least one sibling, older or younger, that also participates in DI?
They did.
Yeah.
A win, yeah.
Yeah, that Melanophy family, I noticed, yeah. I've been watching over the years, yeah, there's always somebody that's in DI, and that's great. The other thing that I note, I mean, you all commented on it too, is the collaboration that is needed in order to compete and be a team, and that's kind of how it is out in the world. We're rarely, I mean, there's always single achievements. We get one or two folks a year, hopefully more now, that will get that perfect SAT score, but to be able to put it in practical terms and do it also under duress in short periods of time, that can happen. So anyway, kudos to you guys, and whatever you can do to continue the encouragement. How many also had parents that were involved? Yeah, that's what I figured, and we really want to thank the parents for being involved, because it becomes a multi-year thing, but definitely saw the benefit, and you guys reaped the benefits of being able to be a team over several years. You kind of grow together and you learn each other's strengths and everything. So great job. Thank you.
Mr. President, just
Yes.
sorry. And thanks to all the coaches too. I mean, I know there's several other teams and several other parents who provide support and coaching and just time. And so thanks to all you as well.
Great job.
It means so much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, great job. Thank you for setting the bar high. All right. Great job.
And our next recognition is Spring Athletics, and I'll invite our athletic director, Stephanie DeVos, up and get that rolling.
Good evening. Thank you, Cindy, for having us. At this time, I would like to introduce to you Angela Hupfel. And as we're sitting there, she's gonna strangle me, but she's like this. And I said, are you nervous? And she goes, yes. And I said, just pretend. She's the catcher of the softball team, that ball's come right there and you're gonna just catch
Yeah,
it in
that's
the
right.
mitt. So Angela Hupfel is gonna be our leader tonight.
Thank you, Ms. DeVos, and thank you for letting us come here. As you can see on the board, if you scroll more, there was a lot of athletes that had committed as of May 11th to a college to play, and many more, like, as spring seasons end, like, you verbally commit again. So it's like a big honor for them, and I've had a lot of kids come.
Wow.
There's some pictures. It was a fun breakfast. And then the top senior GPA is the senior that has the highest GPA of like the team. And I know some of the teams are very competitive, like track. There are some very intelligent kids there, and softball. So it's a big honor for them. And then Hudson, the boys hockey team and the wrestling team went to state this year, and they got the sportsmanship award, which means that they were like the best coach, like they had the best behavior, like they weren't disrespectful to the referees or to anyone like in the stands, and they had like a good student section, and they were very respectful to like all the other athletes and like everyone that was at the state tournament.
Before we scroll down further, that GPA, that's just the spring sports, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we recognized the other ones in the other seasons, so that's great to see we do that for each of the sports.
And then this year, the boys baseball team got a new coach, and they did a lot better than they were expected to do. They had a 5-7-0 record in conference, and an overall record was 7-14, and that's a lot better than what the boys baseball team has been doing. And then they had a first team all conference honors was Max Stubendick, and then honorable mention was Jack Clementson, Garrett Hendricks, which is a very high award. And then the boys golf team did really well. Even though they got 6th in the BRC, they got first at regions, and then they tied for second at sectionals. And then girls softball, which I'm a part of, we had a 7-5-0 record in conference, and we went 11-11 for overall. And we just had like a fun year. We did a lot of like community service events. We went to Feed My Starving Children and stuff. And it was just a great year, and we got to play at the UWRF College Complex. This is the girls soccer team, so take it away.
Hi, I'm Karin Chuckle, and I am one of the captains for the girls soccer team. And this year we had a 10-3 conference record and a 17-8-1 overall record. And we placed second in Big Rivers Conference, and then we were seeded second for our region. And during playoffs, we won our first game against Chippewa Falls at home. And then we also got a second game at home against DC Everest, and we beat them to become regional champs. And that was a big thing for us because we hadn't been regional champs in quite a while. And we also beat DC Everest, which was a huge accomplishment since they had ended our season quite a few years in a row.
Maddie Haynes, and I'm one of the other captains for the soccer team. And this year our motto was "By work we rise," because in the past, like, we haven't, like, put in a lot of effort, and, like, as a result, we haven't been as great. But then this year we decided to, like, step it up, and we got the farthest, like, that I ever have, like, being on the team and in the past years too.
And then this year we had a new coach, Steve Solom, and he was one of the ones that helped us get this far this season. And he also helped us do community service. We participated in Adopt a Highway, and we went on Daily Road and picked up trash for one of our practices, which was a fun thing to do.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Taylor Brinkman, and I'm the other captain.
And you're the one that's going on to play soccer in college.
Yes, Maddie is as well.
All right, great, good.
The boys soccer team also received a new coach, John Knutson. He is the owner of Catalyst, and tennis. Sorry, and they were 3-2 in conference, and they went 14-5 overall, and they sent 3 kids to state, a singles and a doubles team, and they had like a really good year. And then the girls track team is here, and they're also representing the boys track team.
Hi, I'm Anna Wilgren. I'm Izzy Hansen.
And I'm Lucy Fashingbauer. So first of all, I'd like to just thank the board for all their support and everything they do for our program. So we were conference champs, regional champs, and sectional champs this year. Since 2005, this has been our 10th conference win, 11th regional, and 5th sectional. And then, so we also went to state. The girls sent 14 girls to state in 11 of the 18 events, and then as a team, we placed 14th overall, which is a really big accomplishment for us. And then the boys also won conference, and they sent one relay team of 6 boys to state and placed 19th overall, or 19th in their event, so. Yep. Oh, and then I'm gonna go on to run track for UW lacrosse next fall.
All right. So which of you ended up placing at state?
Well, I placed on a relay team. Anna Wilgren was on a relay team until she injured herself 4 days before state. So.
Oh, okay. Well, great job. It's great to send that many girls to state, so good job.
So we're gonna skip over the Coca-Cola, but Sheila Harsdorf came to recognize the boys hockey team on their state championship, and she said that it was like an honor to meet them, and it was just a really exciting thing. And then we also, after we came back from spring break, that was right after the state tournament, and we had like a huge pep rally for the boys team and stuff. And then also there was a swimmer that did really well at state, so it was just like a huge event to kick off spring sports and like bring the power that we had in the winter to come into the spring. And then, so AMP is like an Athletes Making Progress, which I'm a part of, and we went to Trinity, and it was like an Iron Kids like mini Olympics for preschoolers, and it was like tons of fun, and we got to like do events with them, and Mr. Mullen was there with us, and he helped us do all the events. Thank you for letting us come talk.
All right.
Thank you, Angela. If you'll look next, I'm just going to do a quick wrap up here for you. And I'm not going to go through and individually read, but as you can kind of tell, Anna here doesn't believe in she believes in no pain and no gain. So she's constantly in that boot, but one of our best athletes ever. As you can see from the BRC, if you can start at the top there from football, this year alone, we won 9 BRC championships. Wow. So that is the most in the past 10 years that I know of that we've won since I've been here. So in the past 10 years, 9 BRC conference championships. We had 7, I believe, last year. We are now starting and taking over and dominating the categories here for the BRC titles. So it's people are starting to see Hudson come pulling in anymore. The coolest thing, though, I still have to add, the vision for, we did originally, 9 years ago, I did a 3, 5, and 10-year vision, and we're coming up on that 10-year vision, and that was to be in the top 10% in that sportsmanship category. And we are earning our rights being in that top 10%, and that's why I like to get out there that now we're being recognized statewide for our sportsmanship awards. So that to me is just as important or more important than 9 BRC championships. If you go to the next page, I've put together some numbers, and it's easily, you can get it easily confused, but I'll just, I think the top page was cut off. But it breaks the participants down by grades. No, go back to the top. There you go. So our total number, single number of athletes were 740. And then we put our enrollment, and our multiple sport athletes were 324. So of those 740, 324 did one or more sports. And then if you scroll up a little more, the participation by sport, we have broken that down for this year. Other way. There you go. We break down each one for fall, winter, and spring, and then you have the totals. So 1,108 kids, that's total. Remember, there's only 700 kids, but they may have participated in one or more sports. So we had 1,108 participating in a sport. So.
And do we have all our coaching positions? Are we full for next year yet, or do we
Yes.
have openings?
We have one opening that I filled this morning and waiting for a confirmation. So we have to give our coaches credit with their teaching loads and their workloads. I have never seen a more dedicated group of coaches that we have than right now. The work and the hours that go into the commitment that they have to these programs, and more importantly, they love the kids.
Right.
And that's what we look for in our, the winning's going to come.
I know some school districts have a real tough time finding coaches, and they have to go out to non-teaching folks to coach. And
Lower levels, we get there, but it's nice to get the young coaches, try to get them involved. If not coaching, I'm even going out now and trying to recruit for officials.
Right.
And recruiting officials at the middle school level, because there's becoming a shortage of officials for all sports. So.
Very good. Any other board member comments on overall on the athletics?
I just have a comment, Mr.
Yes.
President.
So-
I know that Coach DeVos is very self-effacing about what she does and gives all the credit to others, but I do thank you for your leadership. And, I think you're a strong leader, and you offer a lot of guidance and clarity and care, and I'll say the word love, but I know we won't put that in there.
That's
But you
okay.
really do care about your staff and your students, and I look what's happening. So
Thank you.
congratulations.
I
to you.
thank you very much. We do have one thing we would like to add, just an opportunity real quick to recognize some more kids. And I'm going to have Aaron Moen just talk about that.
Down below that, we have a recognition of some athletes in our building that aren't necessarily on our teams. We have special education students that participate in Special Olympics, and you'll also see them on our sidelines and in the crowd. We have a specific student that comes to mind. His name is Jack Produsco, and he's the super fan of, you name whatever sport, he's there. They are the energizers. They are so good for these kids sitting behind me to be around and be role models for and help along. But they also compete in their own venue. So they're preparing right now for their competitions over the summer. They have to be ages 8 and up. They have cognitive disabilities. They love to do any sport, but they compete in a few of the events. They can choose 3: long jump, softball throw, shot put, javelin, running events. But it's huge for their teamwork, social skills, and something that they can then apply after watching these athletes play. Another thing I want to recognize is Angela. She does an awesome job in a group that is called AMP, Athletes Making Progress. And that group is dedicated to creating opportunities for leadership such as this, where Angela stepped up and was able to come present for the spring sports, represent the athletics programs, and expand her skill set. Their focus is creating a bigger and more extensive classroom outside of the school building. So much like DI and the STEM groups that just talked before, athletics provides such a valuable learning experience for these students as well. So thank you for allowing us to come in and present what they're able to accomplish outside of the school walls.
Right. Thank you. Excellent job, and thanks, Steph. I like the fact you had a 10-year plan. I'd like to hear your next 10-year plan now. Turn even more blue, huh? Yeah. Very good. All right, now we are moving on to, we're past recognitions, and we have a few reports here tonight. And I guess I'll turn it over to Nick, and he's going to be our official timekeeper.
Yep, so we have kind of our end of the year summary reports. We have our end of the year summary reports where we have the different departments, different buildings. Everybody's got about a 3-minute time frame update, and then you have the written report that's in the board packet. So we athletics just did theirs, and so we'll turn it over to Hudson Prairie to start off with Susie Prather.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to share some of the highlights of Hudson Prairie from the 2016-17 school year. I just want to start with our SMART goal process. Our SMART goal has been really to keep and maintain high levels of achievement in reading. So we have the goal of 90% of our students reading at those proficiency levels in multiple assessments. We have 4 main actions that our school took, and really the first one was really all about collaboration and our professional learning communities, and really to refine that process. The second piece was really to use data to help and monitor growth for all students. The third piece was really to look at that gap that we had between students with disabilities and how do we close that gap. And then the last piece was really about informational literacy using technology. And our results are listed below, and we're just very proud. We have our preliminary results say 95% of our kids are reading at or above grade level on the Fontes and Pinnell. We have 93% of our kindergarten and first grade students meeting or exceeding expectations on a PALS reading assessment. 60% of our kids, kindergarten through 5th, are above the 60th percentile on the MAP, and 63% of our students met their spring-to-spring growth targets on the MAP. And students with disabilities, we had 65% of those kids meeting their goals, which really shows that closing of the gap, which we're really proud of. When I go to highlights of the school, I think the biggest highlight is really talking about the teacher collaboration. When we talk about professional learning communities, we've really spent a lot of time really talking about what are those essential learnings, how are we going to assess those essential learnings, and then really look at that data to define which students have it and might need some extensions and which students might need some corrective teaching. And our teachers have really worked on that cycle, and I believe that collaboration and that learning from others is really one of the biggest strengths of our school in really helping students grow. So I'm very proud of that. The second piece is really about our student leadership at Hudson Prairie. That's been one of the goals of all of us at Hudson Prairie, is how do we have students be leaders similar to what we saw with some of the leaders that were acknowledged earlier. And so we have a lot of student-led service projects, both led by student councils and the Hudson Heroes, which is a group that is hosted with the Hudson Kiwanis, really to do some service learning in the community. So some of the things we've done is food drives, collected donations to Grace Place, raised money for Pennies for Patients, collected school supplies for a Native American reservation. Some of the students were really upset that some kids couldn't be a part of some of the youth sports because of financial reasons, so they collected different sporting equipment to give to kids in need, clothing for Grace Place. We had some kids that worked with plantables, some kids that held talent shows, and the list goes on and on. But I'm just really proud of the student leadership that we have at Hudson Prairie as well. So I want to thank you for giving us the time to celebrate the great work of Hudson Prairie.
Thanks, Susie.
Well, and also Susie, we want to thank you for your service now that you are moving over to Minnesota, but thank you. Thank you for the great job there.
Mr. President, may I just make a quick
Yes.
remark? I think one of the first things I learned from you, Susie, was about the teacher collaboration, and I loved learning that, you know, fifth grade teachers get together with other fifth grade teachers from the other elementaries, because I think sometimes it's so easy to feel rather isolated in the classroom. And, you know, getting in touch with your colleagues, it's has a lot of reinforcement. So thank you for sharing.
All right, next up we have teaching and learning. Dave, turn it over to you.
Yep, thank you very much. So I'll get things started. I've got 5 quick areas I'm going to touch on. The first one was the HSD 2025 long-term plan. So we established that long-term implementation plan for the realization of HSD 2025, focused on the following areas. We had teaching and learning improvements, including planning for the reorganization of the department for next year, personalized learning, technology integration, standards-based grading. And then within there are a few projects that we addressed this year. So one was the implementation of our data warehouse system, developed the first phase of our personalized learning plan for implementation in 2017. And then we processed through the curriculum review process, focused on controversial curriculum, resulting in some systematic improvements to the curriculum review process. Moving on to district-wide professional development, we led the process of the new teacher and specialist professional development with the redesign of our initial educator support seminars, which are for all of our brand new teachers. Summer professional development, including our summer academy. Instructional coaching, and supported both the professional development of the instructional coach team and then also their ability to facilitate professional development. There are key implementers in the implementation of professional learning. And then finally, the professional learning community support, and you'll be hearing a lot of that from the schools as they talk about the revitalization of their professional learning communities. Moving on to the 4-year-old kindergarten, all of this co-facilitated with Sue Helmers. You'll hear a little bit about it from her as well. Registered approximately 290 students for the 2017-18 school year, established contracted partnerships with 12 community partners, and established a 4K advisory with district, community providers, and parent representation. Moving on to educator effectiveness, facilitated professional development related to educator effectiveness teacher evaluation systems specific to Standard 6 professionalism with a focus on collaboration, improved and implemented the calibration and certification process for all evaluators of certified staff, and developed a principal evaluation structure within my learning plan. And then finally, technology integration. We got a lot going on in technology, from implementing grades 3 through 12 a one-to-one initiative to supporting technology improvements related to the construction projects. But most importantly, we hired a fantastic leader, and Jennifer Lotzi will be sharing a little bit more about tech integration in just a few minutes.
Okay. Next up, we have learning services.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by thanking our outstanding staff in the Hudson School District who each and every day give their all to providing high-quality instruction, which in turn results in high levels of student learning. Many of the highlights listed were brought to the board through the recognitions, but a few that may have been missed being mentioned. We had 631 students who took 1,017 advanced placement exams in May 2016, with 79% scoring 3 or above. ACT average composite score was 22.3, with 100% of our students tested that junior year. 11 students completed nursing assistant course in summer 2016, along with 4 students completing a year-long EMT course. And for the first time that we're aware of, a Hudson student was named a state DECA officer, VP Event Management. In the area of curriculum, I also want to thank our curriculum specialists providing our staff high levels of support. As a team, we developed a common process and documents to take teams of teachers through their improvement process. This includes identifying standards, establishing essential questions and enduring understandings, prioritizing and deconstructing standards, and writing assessments. This year, the focus was on secondary ELA, K-12 math, and secondary world language. We also continue to strengthen our elementary ELA, and this year the focus of professional learning was on spelling and handwriting. And in addition, we continue to work on our integrated units of inquiry in order to strengthen those units as well. In career and technical education, partnerships with business, community, and higher ed continue to be developed, and over $100,000 in grants were awarded to support CTE and the Work-Based Learning Consortium program. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Sandy. Next, we have Jen Lotze up for technology.
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to share some of the exciting things that we've done collectively as a technology team this year. Our team has changed a little bit over the past year. Previously, I would have probably only spoken to you about our technicians, but for this year, speaking more collectively as a technology team that also includes our instructional technology coaches. So for this year, we've really been pretty involved in some of the classroom design and infrastructure design, both at the middle school and high school. As far as the classroom design, we've really focused on selecting innovative projection systems that we can use that have a 100-inch display for our students, so it's really great for them to be able to see all the amazing things that their teachers are doing, but also support multiple users acting at the front of the room. So it really engages those learners in the front of the room. We've also spent a significant amount of time redesigning the high school infrastructure, so we're really excited to start acting on that work next year. The new high school infrastructure as a part of the construction project will not only support the high school long term, but also the rest of the district, because that building supports everything that we have going on elsewhere. Additionally, this year we've really put a lot of time and gotten a lot of feedback from families, administrators, and staff on the design of a new parent one-stop shop that we call the Radar Portal. So this is going to be a place for parents to access that will go live at the end of July. That's really a one-stop shop for them to access for day-to-day classroom information. So we're really excited to roll that out. New news for us is that Hudson was selected to be a Google reference district. There are districts, a handful of districts across the country that are selected because of their innovative use of technology and also essentially their creative design and development of using Google tools in the classroom. And so Hudson was just recently selected to be a reference district. And what that means is that we are a partner for Google. So as other districts start to implement Google tools and move to Google Apps for Education, they will connect those districts looking to start with us. And then also we will be responsible for hosting one event per year at least that is sponsored by Google to invite other local districts to come and share our ideas, share our deployment of technology, and then also for them to get a glimpse into our classrooms. And then lastly, we are just about ready to roll into changing all of our accounts into hudsonraiders.org. So many of you know that our website is www.hudsonraiders.org. So as a part of the rebranding process, we have tested changing over all of our email accounts. So by the end of September of 2017, we will have everyone signing into their accounts at hudsonraiders.org instead of at hudson.k12.thisemailgoesforever.us. Okay, so as I mentioned before, this is just a short list of a lot of the really amazing things that we've been doing collectively as a team. So thanks so much.
Thanks, Jen. High school is up next.
Okay, I could tell you that nothing happened at the high school this year, but I think you know better, probably. So part of the redesign process has not only been space, but it's been how do we take potentially antiquated systems and look at them through fresh eyes so that we have a 21st century building along with 21st century teaching and learning systems. So part of what our goal this year has been is to form study groups that will center on things such as the AB lunch hour, the schedule. Are we going to further small learning communities, moving to a law day system, putting a writing center within our building? All of those kinds of things are systems and structures that we're going to look at so that our building and our staff and all of our teaching and learning systems match that. So I listed in your document the key drivers that we are looking at in making some of those decisions. At the end of the day, we'll look at, do we keep what we have? Do we cut what we have? Do we create what we need? And so those are some of the areas that we've spent kind of gearing up. One of the things that, and I know Sue was able to attend with us, is going to Alexandria. We took 22 different folks along with us, students and district office, as well as school board. And we looked at a real 21st century designed, primarily space designed. One of the things that I noticed on the tour is not all of their systems really align necessarily with the space. And so I want to make sure that we have those pieces in place. We had quarterly listening sessions for staff. I was proud of the fact that we had 100% of our staff say that they were satisfied with the level of input and communication during this first phase. So I was really pleased about that. We definitely started off wanting to make sure that we had staff input along the way. Our students, Sandy kind of highlighted some of the wonderful things about our students this year. In addition, I've been working with Tony, and we've been looking at some of the work around equity in education. And we conducted our student senior officers conducted two what we called respect roundtables, which brought different factions, different subcultures of the building together to have conversation about how does everyone feel respected within the school community. We, from that, from those two respect roundtables, we have decided, based on recommendations of the students, to have a high school equity council, again made up of myself, a counselor, and probably around 12 students, that we can look at those sorts of things through the eyes of students. The other thing, we've really been moving much more toward restorative justice, and I don't know if you've had a presentation on restorative justice and the beauty behind restorative justice, but it is, depending on what the infraction is, it can create, move things from not just consequences based on an action, but actually learning through a confidential means. We have 5 staff members now that are trained restorative trainers, and we've got a lot of staff members that are interested. So that is a way that we're moving our discipline when it is appropriate. Also, we next year will launch the AP biology. So I know the board has been waiting a long time for AP bio, and we have a extremely skilled teacher that will launch the AP biology, as well as a Chem Academy course. We have more advanced placement readers than we've had in the past. We have an AP Lit and an AP Human Geography who are readers, and then also part of my position this year is onboarding a new associate principal, which Nikki Benson's had a really successful year. So in operations, Jim told me tonight that he was incredibly proud of our teachers, where they packed up just the way he wanted them to do it. And during the school year, our staff managed to change their parking, and our students managed changing their parking on the fly, and removing a media center, a current media center, to a stage area. We did all that with the support of Buildings and Grounds, with the support of the district, but we did it nonetheless, and we are well on our way to having a showcase high school. Thank you.
Thanks, Peg. Next up, we have financial services. Tim.
Okay, I've got Mark here with me tonight. He gets involved with a lot of these items as well, so he'll talk to some of these. Under the referendum construction area, bond proceeds management, that's continuing to be an active process for us as we continue to work with our company that is investing those proceeds. And so we're still on track to generate over $1 million in investment earnings for the 3 projects. Of course, most recently, the issuance of the $9.5 million of referendum bonding So a lot goes into that process. That happens really kind of behind the scenes that you don't see, including preparation of the official statement, and that's for investors. So they read through all of the information, all the demographics, et cetera, of the district, and that's what part of the information that they use to determine whether to invest in our bonds or not. Ratings call with Moody's that affirmed the district's AA1 rating, and they cited, quote, the strong financial operations of the district. And of course, that leads to lower borrowing costs for us, so it saves our taxpayers money. The AA1 step is only really one step below the top rating, and essentially it's a piece that's not controllable by us because it's really primarily due to the district's tax base. Our tax base is smaller, and so they kind of reserve that top rating for, we have the metrics. If we had the tax base, we would probably be at that top rating. But we nonetheless ask them about that quite often when we go through these ratings calls. What will it take? And kind of the response is the same. But contract management and due diligence process. So we've got, as you're aware, we've got a lot of different contracts out there for the construction projects. So we've created a process for oversight and tracking of those contracts, making sure that those contracts are in place with adequate insurance coverage from the companies, and making sure we've got bonding in place, payment performance bonding for those different contractors. Construction team and committee. Of course, we participate weekly in those meetings with the construction team and coordinate the various related efforts, some of which include utilities, furniture, fixtures, equipment, and budgeting. So now I'll turn it over to Mark to talk about a few items.
All right, thanks. So on top of the referendum and all the work that brings, there are a number of things that we continue to work on in our office, and one of the main ones, and I'll point that one out first, is related to the teacher salary structure. I know you guys are all aware of that new system we have in place, and really our role is to help try and implement as best we can. Some of the highlights of that for us this year have been developing an interactive calculator or scenario type tool where teachers can go on and they can punch in their salary, and it can try to estimate for them what the impact could be depending on what their placement is, whether it's in Pro 1, 2, or 3, and what year they're being evaluated. We also worked on budget projections to try and get our hands around what the impact of the system would be. So we've done some of those things related to that. There's obviously a lot more that goes into that one, but that's been a large focus for our office as we worked collaboratively with Andrew and Holly and their HR team down there. Another thing we've done is our substitute tracking system. We've done a few improvements there. Nothing major anybody sees, but there's a lot of behind the scenes work that our staff will do where we're always trying to find ways to be more efficient. We're trying to find ways to be more accurate. So we had a couple improvements there, even significant enough where we actually had another district come in and spend some time with us on how we processed and how we ran it through our system so they could learn and potentially do something similar in theirs. We've continued to the development of our online payment system, and that's FeePay. We've established some work groups that we're trying to find ways to stay consistent across the buildings. One of the challenges when we do a system like that is that each building has their own identity, each department, and we're trying to find a way that we can, keep that group working together and focused, kind of together moving forward. We also did a few RFPs. We did one for commercial insurance, which you would have seen relatively recently related to our liability and work comps. I know you're familiar with that one. Insurance on the health side as well. We've had various success there with our self-funding plan. I know you guys are aware of that, but just some of the highlights are we've only had a 5.3 and a 0% increase over the last 4 years. So it's been a great savings for us. It's been a new initiative that's added some more workload on our office, but it's been a great financially good decision for the district so far. So we've been very happy with that. Our audit report was successful. I know we're kind of gearing up for next year's audit coming up here shortly in August. But if we look back to the previous year, which we would have wrapped up officially around December, we had a successful audit year again with our unmodified opinion. And just a few other things were new again were the tax statements and working with Baird collaboratively on that and trying to find a way to report that correctly. And also the 4K program, David mentioned a little bit about that and support that we're doing there as well. And I just one quick note, a lot of these changes and the referendums add a lot of work and to our staff and our offices. They've been very supportive. They've shown their patience with Tim and I over this past few months with the amount of time these different projects are taking up. So they've been very helpful in kind of keeping the ship running. So a lot of this work is also involving them. So just want to point them out too. Thanks.
Okay, under facilities, long-term facilities planning continues. Phase one of the process is in progress. So some of the steps that have been completed there, facility evaluations with infrastructures have been completed at the 6 schools. Jim and some of his staff have walked through with Carl Sanderson for them to gather the information. We did send out a survey to staff, and that was to gain information on building functionality to educational adequacy, and we had approximately 250 responses on that survey, so a good response rate. Interviews have been conducted with building principals, department heads, and administration, and so now we're moving into the portion where this data is going to be interpreted. It will be compiled, summarized, and then you'll get some information back on that shortly. So that's kind of a wrap of some of the things that we've been up to.
All right, thanks, Tim. Jim Stayskill, Facilities and Grounds.
Tim, you tricked me on the facilities thing. I was halfway to the mic already. I have a list of a number of different things that we've accomplished or are in the process of accomplishing. But I'm going to run through them pretty quickly. But before I do, I want to point out that everything that we do in facilities is done in conjunction and cooperation with all the other leadership in this room right now. All the principals, all the administrators, they all work with us to get this done and plan it and communicate it and help figure out how we're going to pay for it and staff it and on and on and on. So everybody here plays a role in all the things I'm going to talk about. So we've got, I need my glasses now. Some projects that we've completed. We did a window replacement in the 1968 wing over at EP Rock. They turned out very, very nice, and we got a very good value for what we did over there. If you ever get a chance, that's the kind of middle part of the building. If you want to take a look at them next time you're over at Rock, they turned out very, very nice. We did about $90,000 worth of district-wide flooring replacement over the course of the last year, and are still doing more. We remodeled the space that we're in right now, which was a pretty large project that involved moving the duplicating department over next door and reconfiguring the IT space. That expanded into kind of painting and rebranding of this entire building, which is now complete. A project that Tracy and Communications helped with very much with the signage and logos and things like that. We helped Holton put a new greenhouse in. It turned out very nice. We did a number of different mechanical replacements, dehumidification, water heaters, chiller repairs. I worked with Jen to upgrade the technology available to my staff and all their work centers and do some training on that so that our staff have better access to technology and email and other systems that they didn't have before. We did a pretty extensive pool maintenance project. North Hudson, we remodeled the restrooms up there by the media center. They turned out very nicely. Underway, we have more flooring. We have some monument signs getting installed at each school, so the signs for the buildings outside are getting replaced. We're not doing it at Rivercrest, although we did change the signage there, and the high school is going to be part of that project, but at the other sites, you'll see some changes on those signs. We're working with Holton to put a new playground in this summer. That'll be very nice when that's done. We're installing new clock systems at Willow and Prairie. The Prairie Media Center is going to be upgraded over the course of the summer, carpet, lighting, paint, things like that. And then just numerous building level requests. We probably have another 60 or 70 building level requests that we're going to try to accomplish this summer that are just much smaller in nature than these, and I didn't want to get into, explaining each one of them. Under referendum project support, we're doing a little bit of that. I spent about 8.5 hours at the high school today with contractors running all over the place trying to identify existing conditions, and they're really at it today over there. It's really taking off. Working with subgroups, or working on the steering committee, participating in that, working with subgroups to develop and identify areas of need, supporting Kraus Anderson and contractors in those referendum projects, doing a lot of moves a lot of classroom moves, a lot of packing and moving. I'm glad Peg did bring up the fact that her staff did a fantastic job. They did a great job packing. Really followed directions well. We caught a little heat about the video that went out, but it apparently worked pretty well. But they did a great job. And then Tim had mentioned I'm starting to work on the 10-year facility plan with Carl Sanderson. I spent about 2 days with John Hunick touring facilities and are starting to develop specific needs and having some meetings with him to vet those needs. And then just the ongoing work of keeping the district clean and running. We clean about 950,000 square feet of school building every school day. We support all the weekend activities as required, and I'm sure Tracy at some point will start to talk about weekend activities and how many of those we have. We complete about 500 to 700 work orders a year, maintain six athletic fields, and then about 175 acres of lawn that we keep mowed and looking good. So that is what I have for us tonight.
Thanks, Jim. Next, we have Peg Eller up with Nutrition Services.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak and tell you all about our department this past year. Divided nutrition services into four main areas, the first being, of course, nutrition and menu development. This year, one of the things that we have done in the past is done produce of the month, and we changed that to focus more on a fun food feature, meaning that we went outside the box of fruits and vegetables into legumes, whole grains, and other foods, and then also tried to serve those throughout the month instead of just one time. Examples that we show are apples, pumpkins, yellow squash, purple potatoes, cranberries, parsnips, and pineapple. I think I'm going to talk to that middle school group about their pumpkin powder. I think if I can incorporate pumpkin powder into our food products, I will hydrate the students and they will stay hydrated and not need to go to the drinking fountain so often. We also worked on 8 to 10 new menu items, revamping our menu totally, and working on special needs students out with special medical needs such as gluten-free diets, coming up with cycle menus for them as well so that their menus look similar to ours. In operations, along with the Wellness Committee, we've investigated and proposed a pilot breakfast program for middle school, which you hopefully will be hearing about soon. We developed a standard operating procedure for our unpaid meal accounts. We coordinated with ASC on the VPay accounting system, which has increased our online payments and our handling of checks and money and made it more accurate, and also gives parents an opportunity to track their food, which they had before, but now because more parents are using it, more are seeing that system as a benefit for them. We've successfully completed 2 biannual health inspections with no critical deficiencies in either our inspections or our standard operating procedures, and we've also mentored 2 Stout students during the year. Administration facilities planning, we've served almost 500,000 lunches and about 7,100 breakfasts. Our lunches are down in participation and our breakfasts are up. Again, I think we're still working on the changes that were made by the federal government in the whole grains and the reduced sodium and the requirement for fruits and vegetables. When a child doesn't have a fruit or vegetable on their tray, it's not counted as a reimbursable meal, it's counted as an a la carte. So we're working on marketing those fruits and vegetables more often. Revenue was down because of this, and probably mainly because of our a la carte sales. Again, the changes in the smart snacks. However, we've been able to make that adjustment accordingly, and our budget remains within budget at about $2.5 million, all while we've spent about $80,000 to $85,000 on equipment. Developed and implemented a department operations and orientation manual for new staff. We've had about a 14% turnover. It's just the job market right now, and lunch ladies has worked for a long time, and we had several big retirements this year, so filling those shoes has been a process. So the need for a orientation manual has been very helpful in getting them trained in all of the rules and regs of school meals. We developed and implemented a professional development plan, again a requirement of the USDA to have a professional development plan and more consistency in our training. It's helped improve our staff training and helped us also hopefully increase participation. Facilitated in the planning of the new high school cafeteria, we're really looking forward to that, and working on the long range facilities plan as well. In communication and marketing, this is our big area and one of my big goals for the coming year. We participated in and supported the Power Up at the elementary schools and the Fuel Up to Play at the middle schools, assisting in the program by offering samples of foods and getting kids to try new items. Also worked with the Middle School Student of the Month and providing a healthy breakfast in their recognition. This year, I also had our school managers set goals to improve participation and help reduce costs that they reported on quarterly. And this really helped our communications and kept them following through on ways that we can increase participation and get kids involved. They did waste studies, they did classroom programs, some recipe modifications to improve food quality, and strategies to collect unpaid account balances. Hopefully next year, our new goals will be working more on marketing, investigating average ways to support our program. Thank you.
Thanks, Peg. Do you want to take a break?
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm
Next.
just going to announce that we'll be taking a break in 5 minutes, so after the next two reports.
Okay. Next up, we have Kim from Willow River.
2.5 minutes. As you can see, thank you for having us. As you can see, we've had a plethora of activities taking place and highlights at Willow River Elementary throughout the year. I'm going to highlight two of them. One of them being, over the past year, we've been working between district staff, Willow River staff, with Hudson community members to plan our 100-year celebration of opening of the Willow River School. Through the work of one of the community members, Nancy Hawkinson, we have pinpointed the construction completion of Willow River to be the winter of 1918, with the official opening with the first students of being January of 1919. So Willow River, throughout this year, hosted, for the fall of 2018, we're going to be celebrating that 100-year celebration. And one component of the celebration is going to be a montage of videos from past and present students, staff, and also involve community members. So over the past year, we have provided tours for some of our past graduates, some from the year of 1939, and a couple from the years of in the 1940s. So between our student ambassadors and Willow River staff, we provided tours for them, interviews, as well as some classroom opportunities where we've had some question and answer time for them. So that has been a true highlight throughout our building. The other highlight at Willow River has been that we received a STAR grant to further our work on becoming a language diverse school. So with the major benefit being to support HSD 2025 global outcomes, literacy outcomes. So in our building, we have bilingual signs welcoming people as they come in. I think you've seen that. Yep. As well as we've added additional multicultural and bilingual opportunities, have gone into our academic areas as well as into our all-school or community building celebrations. We also have greetings in multiple languages on our world map as you enter our atrium. We also have additional bilingual books have been purchased in the media center to support current curricular areas. We have created tubs that staff members can check out that have been that include books, games, and music. So I have a couple testimonies from some of our students. So one of our students says, my parents are deaf and I learned sign language from them. It would be great to have posters of sign language and books to teach my friends and teachers on how my family communicates. Another student said, my mom is from Israel and speaks French. I would like more books and materials in French to help me understand more about that community. I would also like to learn to talk to my mom in French. And another student has said, I'm learning Spanish in my class from my teacher. We listen to songs and music in Spanish while we are working. We also have a 5-minute morning meeting in Spanish. I would like bilingual books and materials in Spanish, more books, and maybe games to check out. I love learning Spanish. So that's just a couple of highlights at Willow River.
Thanks, Kim. Right at 3 minutes. It was quite impressive. Next up, we have Student Services.
All right, thanks. Before sharing just a couple of specific highlights of the work within Student Services, I want to recognize the outstanding work that's happening with our certified and our support staff. We've had an extremely busy year this year that involved the implementation of some very large-scale initiatives, as well as having a number of unexpected situations pop up that everyone had to pitch in and help out with. Our staff rose to every occasion and met these challenges with extraordinary professionalism and teamwork. I couldn't be prouder of them. In addition, I want to recognize the principals and other administrators who have been amazing in effectively dealing with this situation and moving our programs forward. I want you guys to know how much I appreciate your continued collaboration. You've been great. I did mention large-scale initiatives. For example, within special education, we implemented the new college and career-ready IEP forms across the entire school district. Special education teachers initially reported that at the beginning of the year, it was taking them between 4 and 6 hours to write one IEP. We provided a ton of training and support to them, and by the end of the year, teachers were reporting that they had experienced nearly a 20% increase in their confidence with these new forms. This year was unique in that a number of state-required reports all came due at the same time. So we facilitated the 4-year countywide attendance review for all school districts in St. Croix County. We completed the 5-year non-discrimination audit of the district, which you heard about. And we also received your approval for a new 3-year student wellness plan that included the implementation and development of a pilot school breakfast program, which you're going to hear about at your next work session. This past year also included implementation of a number of programmatic changes intended to increase learning and student supports. We implemented new special education math curriculum at the high school, implemented special education co-teaching with Fidelity also at the high school. We collaborated with the Methodist Church to begin providing our backpack food program to students and families this coming summer at Rivercrest, and we formed a district-wide assistive technology committee. We really feel like we're doing the right things, and this is also being recognized at the state level. You heard that 3 of our school counseling programs were recognized for having promising practices. More recently, we just received word that 3 of our schools have been recognized for their whole school work around PBIS. These are wonderful things. You can see in the report that despite possibly not getting state level recognition, our staff are engaged in many, many activities. We're very, very proud of the work that they're doing.
Thank you, Tony. And real quick, since it's in student services, we'd like to bring up Erin. She's going to talk about early childhood special ed.
Hi, thanks for having me tonight. I wanted to highlight a few of the groups that I coordinate through the school district. Early childhood is one. We've had a super busy year with early childhood. We held 5 early childhood screening days. Our district hasn't done this in the past few years, so it was kind of a big undertaking. So from August to March, we screened 176 3 to 5-year-olds, really moving forward the goal of identifying kids early who need early intervention so that they can have a more positive K-5 experience. There were lots of opportunities for collaboration in early childhood this year. We currently have a collaboration with Head Start for 4-year-olds, but with the implementation of 4K next year, we're moving to a program for 3-year-olds to just add another inclusive opportunity for more kids. I'm trying to be fast. Gifted and talented, we really looked at redefining our early enrichment process and looking at multiple data points for different kids and looking at more of an RTI model especially for our K1-2 and just looking at matching levels of service with what they need. This allows our team to really dig into and focus on curriculum rather than the identification process. Then our ESL program, something that was a definite highlight this year is that our ESL team provided a training on SIOP, which is a Sheltered Instruction Observation Protocol for 24 K-12 teachers. This really kind of boosted our ESL teachers into a leadership role where they're increasing the capacity of regular ed teachers to design instruction so that students with limited English proficiency can have more access to regular curriculum. So that was a highlight. And then our motor team, our occupational and physical therapists worked really hard this year on researching different service delivery models. So next year they'll be moving into using a 3-in-1 model, meaning they provide direct service to kids for 3 weeks and then indirect service for 1 week. So it allows them more of an opportunity to get into those classrooms and help kids develop their skills in more authentic environments. That's it.
Thank you, Erin.
Thank you. All right, we will adjourn for 5 minutes. Okay, I guess the timing wasn't too bad for that break. We were hour and a half into the meeting. Hopefully, we don't have another hour and a half to go, but Nick is doing a great job with the timing. I should say the people giving the reports are doing a good job so that Nick doesn't have to cut them off. But go ahead. Next up is middle school. It looks like we have a tandem report with the middle school.
We're gonna go every other word.
Oh, great.
I'll talk about our SMART goal and progress for this year, and Diane will talk about some successes and highlights from the middle school as well. So with our SMART goal, we just completed our second year of our SMART goal, where we want by 2020, 85% of our middle school students will demonstrate proficiency in creating a solution for a real-world challenge. And we came up with that goal because our teacher input was basically that our kids can do the work in class, but they can't apply that outside of class. So that's where that real-world challenge comes up. And so there's three components to that goal. There's the collaboration, and then we'll move into research, and then we'll move into writing to really wrap up that 2025-year goal. So this year, we focused on collaboration, and if you can scroll down to the results part, we really looked at the collaboration rubric that we developed as a building and we revised this year. And really a majority of our data from our baseline beginning of this year was under 20% proficiency with our students. And by the end of the year, a majority of those strands, prepared, speaking, listening, and reflects, were between 60 and 70%. So our students made some really great gains in collaboration this year, and we're really proud of the work that we did with that. So each of our content areas split up that rubric. If you scroll up right before the results, you can see there you go. Thank you. You can see which content areas kind of split up that rubric and really focused on the instruction in those different strands of that rubric. So the next step for next year, if you scroll down, we will, based on our collaboration data and our forward exam, we will move into the research piece of this and really looking at posing questions, because really developing a good research question is one of the first steps in the research process. So really looking at questions that sustain conversation, that explore ideas, and that really linger. Those are some main areas that we will focus on for next year based on our 5-year goal. And those really align with the ELA literature Common Core standards, such as determining central ideas, summarizing key details and ideas, and really looking at research projects based on questions, understanding, and investigation.
So I get to share with you our school highlights and successes in progress, and certainly this is not an exhaustive list, and this had a lot of teacher input. First, we'd like to highlight the instructional coaching and curriculum development this year. We had a lot of staff that were very passionate about personalization, and our instructional coaches really working with those teachers on exploring those practices. Also, very exciting this year was our instructional technology work. Our IT coaches not only were helping staff implement new ideas that they had, but they were meeting with them on a routine basis. So they had weekly meetings with house teams to be able to begin to develop those places where instructional technology really could take hold for our students. And now that we are one-to-one with Chromebooks across all 3 grade levels, we saw a lot of improvement here. We completed our second full year as a Wisconsin Mental Health Grant and Trauma Sensitive Practice School as part of a cohort. This year we really worked on having professional development really embedded within the school year, not only during late start, but also throughout the school year in other ways with staff. We had our 3rd installment of One Book, One School with Boys in the Boat, which was very exciting, that culminated by inviting a number of speakers into the building to talk about their experiences either in the depression or athletic-related struggles, and certainly resiliency and perseverance. Finally, at the very bottom, which exciting to see our students here tonight with those STEM team, student leadership beyond the classroom. Our 2 STEM teams talked tonight from that eCyber Mission competition. We had National Junior Honor Society for the first year, And also, we had a partnership with the Minnesota Zoo Project at 6th grade, and we had one of our teams named in the top 3. That was out of 327 projects and 13 schools that had this partnership. So lots of fun stuff going on at the middle school. Certainly a highlight was our groundbreaking, and we look to have next year have lots of exciting things to tell you about that new space.
Thanks, Diane and Trevor. Next up, we have Community Ed and Communications. Tracy.
I'll start with community education. You have some statistics here as far as participation in our number of classes. This year we implemented our online registration, including moving all of our course catalog online, so the 200 plus classes. We, part of Community Ed is recruiting instructors. We have about 50 Community Ed instructors that we support throughout the year. We increased our family open gym nights, especially successful at the elementary grades on Friday nights. We also did an open gym on Wednesday nights at the high school, which wasn't quite as successful. We held our second annual Daddy-Daughter Dance with 662 participants, which was amazing. A nice event for our elementary families. The numbers, as you can see here, are a little bit down from last year, primarily because of our spring and summer course offerings being limited due to some of the construction projects. However, those construction projects have also pushed activities to our elementary schools. If you look at our facility use, as you scroll down, Jim talked about the time on the weekends and outside the regular school day. If you look at our gym space alone, we had 12,000 hours of gym time used across the district outside of the regular school day. We coordinated and processed about, or just over 1,000 facility permits. That's a little bit higher than last year, even though we have less space available, we have more people using space. We also, as you know, reviewed our facility use fees and increased those fees to maintain that cost-neutral revenue and expenses. And then also developed and implemented Newton Field use guidelines and how the rental fees would work at Newton Field. Moving on to communications, a lot of this information you're aware of because we do fairly regular updates as far as the construction and what's going on there with the Raider recaps. But this year we also produced quarterly newsletters that were mailed district-wide. With the new website being launched in July, we were able to increase the stories that we're sharing on the website and images of our kids and staff in action. Some of you may have noticed or have not and may want to check out how we've improved the website to meet the ADA requirements. In our website, if you go to the website, the top right-hand corner is a little blue logo with a person standing in it. If you click on that, it will allow you to change the font size, the colors, and some of the other highlights, hyperlinks and whatnot, so for to better serve folks with visual impairments. Part of our branding campaign included processing requests for folks who wanted to use the image, and so we had about 12 organizations, individuals who requested use of the logo. And then we also had about 20 internal groups who asked for customized logos. So orchestra, cross country, a variety of folks did that. With the new website, we also trained and supported district staff who were responsible for website editing. I already mentioned the ADA requirements. We've focused on improving what we're putting out for social media. Kim had mentioned the video, but for Willow River that we started this year, but we're also putting together a welcome video for this fall. And then crisis communication, you're all well aware of what we send out regularly, or felt very regular this spring on crisis communication. And that's our department real quick.
Thank you, Tracy. Next up, we have Katie at Rivercrest.
All right. Great. Well, thank you so much. You can see from the list that was submitted, we've done a lot of really cool things at Rivercrest this year, and a lot of the academic, the SMART goal things were similar to what Susie had shared. Our elementary crew really works together a lot on our learning goals. I'd like to highlight a couple of the special things that we did that's in the bottom part of it that kind of gives you a broader picture, a better picture of what it means when groups come together. So the first was the One School, One Book we initiated at the elementary school. It was done, we were able to get an Anne Marie grant as well as PTO funding to provide a book for every family. The focus is a little bit different at the elementary level than it is at the middle school. We focused on having families read together and read aloud together, whether they were kindergartners or fifth graders. So some of those families who hadn't read aloud to their children for years read together for this book. We chose The Cricket in Times Square, and it was really just a fun book for them to enjoy. We also then were able to talk about the books in the classroom, and we had special just traditional reading week activities, dress like your favorite book character. We had an evening event. We had the kids getting excited and sharing stories about the Cricket in Times Square and the discussions that they were having at home that they brought into the classroom. The event, the grant, and the initiative came from my library media specialist and our reading teacher, and the planning committee included parents and teachers, and students were highly engaged as well. The other thing that this event did was bring together our use of technology that you've supported in bringing down the one-to-one to third grade. So our students were able to listen to the stories being read. Teachers actually used a green screen with the tech coach that is new this year and read a chapter aloud. And then students could re-listen to the chapter, or if their families didn't have time to read at home, they could watch the teachers reading. And they were able to do that on those Chromebooks, and we had better access at K-1-2 as well, that it enabled us to make something like that happen for them. Another special thing that we did was, I'm going to highlight kind of two environmental things. We started off the year working with the Hudson Urban Forestry Board and John Mueller and did an ash tree inventory. So we talked to all of the students about being citizen scientists and what that meant, how to identify what the elm tree is, why we cared about what was going on, and the borer, the elm ash borer that came through. And then students collected data from their community within the Rivercrest boundary areas. So they counted the trees, they measured the circumference, and then they gave that information to the Hudson Urban Forestry Board. They did it again through the Google Docs. We set up Google Docs, and teachers who had never really used them before had a real reason to engage in that, and it got the students and the families also engaged in using the Google Docs. We ended the year with a prairie burn, which the prairie was planted at Rivercrest when it first opened, and it needs to be burned so that it can sustain and regrow. And our students worked with the prairie enthusiasts, our third grade students and Environmental Kids Club with our volunteer teachers did research about why it was necessary, and they presented that research to other classrooms. And then the prairie enthusiasts came to Rivercrest during the school day. Students were able to ask questions and actually watch from a safe distance to have this burn happen. It was a really exciting thing. And then through the spring this last month, they've been watching the regrowth of the prairie. So really authentic learning experiences that they were able to do. Again, the technology thread, the way that they shared their learning was through using Google Slides, and that was available to all of our students at a much higher level because we have that access to technology. So thank you.
All right, thanks, Katie. Next up, we have Sue Helmers from Holton.
Good evening. As a parent of a 2017 graduate, could not be happier with his K-12 experience and educational things that have happened, and so I'm a proud parent and a proud employee of the Hudson School District. I am going to talk about two areas tonight from Holton Elementary. First is our SMART goal action and what we really focused on this year. We set tiered goals, each teacher did, for students so that all students made growth, working to meet the needs of kids that needed some extra help, as well as those that were already at grade level and finding opportunities to extend their learning. So we worked with written responses for kids, some first grade, but mainly second through fifth. where they wrote about their thinking with the books, and that really stretched them, and it got teachers very engaged in meeting and paying attention to the needs of all kids. We also worked on closing the gap. We had a gap between our male and female students. Our boys were underperforming, so we started some boy book clubs with some male teachers and some parents. Some dads came in. We also did some interest inventories to find out the sorts of books that these boys, actually all students, but particularly the boys, liked, and made sure that we had those genres available in both the media center and in the classroom libraries. Just trying to motivate. What started out as a focus on males kind of turned out into motivation of all readers, and teachers really started to get to know their kids as readers and tried to really build on their interests, which kind of brought about conversations about relationships and really understanding kids and who they are and what really makes them tick. And so it turned into more of a kind of a school-wide initiative, not just for boys, but for all of our students. Motivating all learners, one of the things we did, we tried to partner with the Hudson High School students and invited several different groups to come in and share how they use reading outside of their outside of school. So we had the wrestling team, the football team, we had the band, swing choir, we had a group from the FIPS come. And it was interesting because each high school student talked a little bit about maybe it was knowing how to read so that they could read fishing regulations when they went fishing in Florida, or knowing how to read about snowboarding because that's what they like to do. And so my hope was that somebody in the crowd, one of the students, would connect with one of those high school role models and see that reading was important, not just in elementary, not just in high school, but in life beyond. So that was exciting and a nice way to connect Holton. Sometimes we feel a little bit out, to connect Holton to the Hudson School District. The other thing that was a focus and a real highlight this year was our outdoor space, our health and wellness, and just outdoor use of our outdoor space. We had the grand opening. It's always nice to go late because everybody's already shared a lot of your things, but we did open a greenhouse actually it opened for use this spring. We finished it in the fall, but we had our first round of plants in the greenhouse this spring, had our first plant sale, but that's been very exciting. We work very closely with a master gardener, and she's worked in lots of ways to get kids involved. We have a weekly garden club where they grow, and then this fall we'll harvest their produce to share with the kitchen, and our kitchen staff does a great job of then serving that to the students. They're highly motivated to eat the things that they grow. Parents tell me that these are things that they don't necessarily eat at home, but they will eat at school because they raised them. We have parents that come in over the summer and continue to work on the garden with watering and weeding and that sort of thing, so that in the fall it's ready to go. We did a 3-week Power Up program in April. We also, in conjunction with Power Up, worked with a high school anatomy and physiology class where they came and did an open gym and set up stations, just different learning activities. Kids, the high school students were in groups of 3 or 4 and had healthy snacks, different ways to, or the importance of drinking water, things like that. And so we had a huge turnout. We had over 100 people come, which is about half of the school. And it's funny, Holton sort of comes to these things because they just like to hang out. We laughed because the parents had as much fun as the kids, just talking and visiting. And so that was a huge success, I think, for the high school class as well. And then finally, we were selected this spring as the 2017 U.S. Department of Education Green Ribbon School, one of 45 in the country. I will be attending or representing the Hudson School District in Washington, D.C. on July 19th. I'm traveling with our Master Gardener to attend the recognition ceremony on July 19th. Also, in lines with our outdoor recreation, we did an all-school inquiry project on bees, the decline of bees. And so whether the kids were kindergarten or all the way up to 5th grade, they studied the decreasing bee population, the causes. Their goal was to answer the question, what is happening and why, and what can we do to help? And as an all-school sort of culminating activity, we invited plantables to come, and we did sort of an assembly line where all of the students had a hand in making bee bombs, which was their way to take action. And finally, as Jim mentioned, we have a handicap accessible playground being installed this summer. The end of June. We are very excited. The parent group has worked really hard to plan and raise funds. The district has worked very collaboratively with us, and so the dream of this new Holton playground is finally coming, and it will be construction will begin June 26th. And finally, in another project to come is the art bench. So all of you are familiar with the new bridge coming in. There is a trailhead. The trailhead is right across the street from Holton, and so we've been working collaboratively with the township and the county and the state to develop a plan for an art bench. The FIPS and the St. Croix Valley Foundation are very involved. We're working with an artist in Afton, and so we're kind of making the plans, not so much for a bench, but a gathering space. And so that will be actually not till 2019, but the FIPS will be working with students starting this fall. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is 4K, and this can't be counted on my 3 minutes because it's something different.
You actually took your 4K 3 minutes too.
Did I?
So.
Okay, 4K is great. No, I'm just kidding. I'll be very quick. Sorry. I was doing. As Dave mentioned quickly, the 4K. Our first community informational meeting was December 1st. That's when we started, and it's sort of amazing to think that we are opening the first 4K program this fall. So it's been a lot of work, but a really great project and a culmination of efforts across the entire community to make this 4K program go. As Dave mentioned, we have our community partners. We also have 2 school sites. We have an AM and a PM at Hudson Prairie, taught by Natalie Thorson, who is a kindergarten teacher in our district. And we have 2 classes in the AM and a PM at North Hudson, which will be taught by Heather Sundberg, who was a kindergarten teacher at Rock. We've had curriculum training, creative curriculum training. We had a trainer come in May, and we have an assessment training in August, so that teachers will be well prepared, whether they're at the community sites or at the school sites, be prepared to do our 4K in a really consistent and equal way. We will continue with our 4K Advisory Council, which Dave and I have talked, has been a really great, almost not even on purpose, has brought a lot of community people together, and we have worked very closely to create a program that we all feel very comfortable with. It's been a brainstorming and problem-solving group that we have worked collectively, and I think have come up with a really, really strong and positive program. The start date is August 21st, and we are looking forward to beginning the first 4K. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. Next up, we have Amy from EP Rock.
Ready, go. Some of us took the 3 minutes literally, but I don't want you to think that I'm less proud of the work at EP Rock. So, at EP Rock this year, we started with a building-wide theme of Only One You, and students and staff read the book and painted a rock that represented their uniqueness and what makes each of us special. The rocks were placed by students and staff in our new rock garden. Throughout the year, we came back to the book to remind us of the important things in life: kindness, friendships, beauty, passion, and dreams. Little did we know just how much some of our students needed us this year. We had about 20 students who experienced significant trauma this year. And you heard the middle school talk about their grant. And so I just wanted to say how that plays out in our schools. If you think about a student with trauma, we had 2 students who lost a parent. We had students removed from their home and placed back in their home and then removed again. So we focused on how to help them be successful. They had lots of different ways we wrapped around them to help them move on. And by doing that, they were very successful. The behaviors diminished, the reading and math scores soared, and reading growth for these students grew on average of 1.5 years, more than expected 1 year's growth. MAP reading results for all of our students indicated that achievement grew in the area of college and career ready. Students scoring That would be student scoring in the 60th percentile or higher, which is all of our elementary goal to get as many students as we can in that higher area. And our kindergartners started at 39%, and it grew to our fifth graders achieving at 73% college and career ready. A group of fifth graders engaged the entire school in a service learning project after reading Long Walk to Water. Their Water for South Sudan project resulted in a total of $2,565. And the best part of that story was seeing the pride of some of these same students experiencing trauma, dropping their pennies in the jar to help others. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Next up, we have Andrea, Human Resources.
Okay, so continuing theme in our Human Resources Department is customer service and data integrity. And we talk about customer service from the perspective of our staff, whether it's administration, whether it's custodians, they are our customers, and those are who we strive to serve. And so that theme continues to permeate throughout our work in different ways. There are three quick highlights. First of all, recruitment and retention. Certainly filling 200 plus vacancies in this past year will keep us hopping. And my wonderful HR manager, Holly Butler, does a fantastic job utilizing WeCan and the new WeCan system to fill those vacancies. But then we have been taking a more concerted or more detailed look at what do we do once we get them on board? How do we retain those staff? And we've been seeking to increase communication and whether it's office hours on TSS, whether it's rolling out handbook to every building in multiple ways. When we did it this fall, we went to every building at least twice to roll out the handbook and the changes. And then again, that increased message of communication and utilizing the Human Resources Department as a resource for the information. Second area is supervision and support. So we had approximately 65 employee investigations during the 2016-17 school year. Six of those situations resulted in significant discipline for continuing staff, but 17 others are no longer employed with the district. Also, in terms of supervision and support, we focused on use of leave by staff and the use of sick leave in particular on high demand days and having recurrent communications on the necessity of utilizing sick leave conscientiously by our staff, and then increased communication both by administration as well as HR about our expectations regarding the proper use of that sick leave, and it resulted in a significant reduction in utilization of sick leave on those high demand days. The third area is continued organizational analysis. We've been taking a fresh look at how we are structured and what we can do better systemically and how we can strategically realign our system. So whether it's the org chart implementation, which is continuing tonight, well, it's about to continue with the consent agenda, whether it's the implementation of the org chart, whether it's Skyward data cleanup, but then also developing organizational charts at each building and then position control charts within each department as well. So that's being finalized at this point. So we can have a better, more comprehensive understanding of our structure that we then can continue to analyze as we go forward.
Thank you, Andrew. Next up, we have Michelle, School Age Care.
Thank you for this opportunity to share some highlights that is happening in school age care. In the beginning of January, the staff and I sat down to create a new summer field trip and curriculum guide that reflects some of the HSD 2025 goals. We created additional classes in some of the following areas, such as Chinese, Spanish, global travel. This summer, we'll have 80 class opportunities for our students to participate in. We implemented the new fee pay billing system. 95% of our parents register and pay online, and it also creates a more efficient way for parents to request drop-in space right online. In the 25 years that I've worked in school age care, we haven't had a lot of time to have staff training. So this year, we increased our training opportunities for school age care staff. 100% of our leads attended a conference outside of the district. We provided 6 on-site training opportunities, and my lead staff joined the Wisconsin After School Association, which was a big thing for us, and they began networking with peers in their field, and we were able to find out Hudson is actually one of the leaders in Wisconsin in school-age care. One of the things we implemented with our students is to reduce our amount of time on computer screens and iPads and things like that. By the beginning of the year, the students were very slow to make this change. By this spring, we didn't even need to bring iPads out or computers. They were looking for more interesting things to do. It created numerous opportunities to have discussions during the year over how much time is too much, what other things can we choose to do. In the spirit of brevity, and a picture is worth 1,000 words, I added a few pictures of some of school-age care participating in some enriching activities. That shaving cream trivia really was a big hit where we created teams, and the kids had to write their answers in shaving cream. They really did have a good time with that one. And we learned all about science, racing balloons across the Willow River cafeteria, and we constructed towers at Prairie, and we created bubble snakes at EP Rock. And here we're making scientific potions at Holton. And exploring, we had a bug exploration at EP Rock. I was amazed they found a bug like that, but they actually did. And that's just a few of the examples of our students participating in enriching experiences.
All right, thank you. And last up for reports, we have Dolph coming from North Hudson.
And I'll try to keep mine to 3 minutes also. I'll bookend tonight with what Susie started with professional learning community, so I'll hit the first action step and then a couple throughout. But really, as a principal team, this is an area that we were looking at to be fed again. We've been working with our staff with professional learning for a while. But we felt like it was time that we needed to be fed a little bit more, and Learning Services and our direct supervisor, Dave Grambo, allowed us, along with learning with him last summer, to hit the national conference that was right in Minneapolis. And it was a great learning experience for our team. We had two big takeaways, and looking at our professional learning communities, we looked at a couple things that were missing. One was just giving our teachers the autonomy to take a look at their reading curriculum guide and their students and look at what really is the essential learning for them, along with, well, what would be the common assessment you could use to start with to know what the baseline is, and then to work through as you're teaching to see who's learning it, who's not, what are the differences between the classrooms so they can make changes and learn from each other. So those are two big changes we brought back, and it really made our professional learning communities this year much more authentic, impactful, as we've worked. Now we have a lot more work to do, but it really is the number one strategy that teachers can use. If done well, professional learning communities can get a year or two more growth than buildings and schools that don't use it. So it's a really important practice that system-wide we're doing, and I know that every building fellow was a really important thing that happened too. When I made my list, I had my teachers help create it, and there's one thing that they wanted you really to know about a highlight with North Hudson, and it's something that's ongoing, but they wanted you to know about the traditions that we have at North Hudson for building strong student and teacher relationships. You can think about teachers you've had, coaches you've had. The ones that have gotten the most out of you are the ones that you had close relationships with. And so they wanted me to hit on some of the traditions that we have at North Hudson. So our monthly all-school meetings. We have a wonderful tradition of an all-school dance, which is a culminating activity in physical education where each grade level performs. We have a K-3 track and field day, all-school fun run. We have a writer's extravaganza at the end of the year where K through 5th grade students get to authentically show their writing. And this year, one of the things we're able to do is some of the final products were done online using our Chromebooks. So some one-on-one options too. And that also supported some students that had difficulties with writing because they could do their publishing in another format. And so those are things that my teachers really wanted you to know. The other piece that it does in our building is it builds a sense of belonging, a sense of home through these shared experiences that they have. And so we really felt like you should know about that. Finally, I wanted to end with some of our neediest students, some things that you may or may not know about. But and these programs we have in all programs, 2 of them. In the last program I'll talk about it's specific to certain buildings based off of just student need. But this year we've had 24 students that have accessed, or families I should say, that have accessed our backpacker program. So every other Friday, food going home. We've had 7 to 8, depending on the month, access our co-located mental health services. So I know we're not to full implementation of that, but it's such an important program. It meets a basic need for students. It helps parents out. Their child does not have to leave North Hudson and the other schools that are currently using it. It's efficient for their time. They can get down on a Thursday, have their therapy session, and get back to class. And so we could fill more spots, and thank you for the support with that, but it really, really is a foundational piece for students to be able to learn that have mental health issues in the building. And finally, this past year, we've had 4 students, so 1% of our population, and that's kind of typical, that are homeless at North Hudson. And so this is close work with Alyssa Van Boxel, our social worker at the elementary level, as well as student services, to make sure that we have that transportation lined up. So the one constant we're able to give these children is they know what school they're going to. It's definitely the best placement for them when they don't know from day to day maybe where they're living. And so I did want to highlight some of the ways that we're meeting the needs of some of our most needy children. And thank you again, board, for giving us time collectively to be able to hit on some of our highlights from the school year.
Thank you, Dolph. That brings us to the end of our reports. It's an important time of year. I know it's a lot of reports in one night, but there's a lot of great things that are going on in the district. There's a lot of different things that are going on in the district across all of our buildings and departments. And so the folks that have been up presenting in front of you tonight really are the heart and soul of our district. They're the reason that our district functions the way it does. I mean, our teachers are obviously very important. Our kids are very important, but the folks that you heard talk tonight really keep the machine running. And it's a big machine, and there's a lot of different moving parts. And so a lot of times the reason you don't hear of a lot of these things is because they are running well. A lot of times it gets brought to the board when they're not. And so, there's just a lot of great things going on. I can't say thank you enough to the people sitting in the chairs because we couldn't do what we do for kids without everybody that talked here tonight doing their part. And so it's really a great night of presentations and things. So thank you very much to everybody that came, and I think we're on to the next item. I know everybody wants to stay for the entire meeting, don't they? Yeah. I would say that nobody from the board will be offended if you don't want to stay for the entire meeting. So, thank you. But you're welcome to stay. But you don't have to. But you don't have to. Wherever you want to.
Okay, so next up, looks like we have.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Thank you all. Really appreciate it. Great job. Great work. Thank you.
All right, superintendent reports, and looks like we have 3. So first, construction update. Is that the one you want to do first?
Yeah, I will try to get us back on track after financial services put us behind. Just kidding. Yeah, absolutely. So actually, I should put a timer on myself. I've been doing it to everybody else. So a couple things on construction. Middle school is cranking along. They've already started tearing into Excalibur and Merlin House. There you can see a picture of the new middle school gym. It's turned out quite nice. If you'd like to see a new addition at any time, just give me a call. We can set up a time to go over and walk over there. But the middle school's come along well. They're working on the back driveway, and they'll be starting the parking lot on the north side of Prairie in the middle school here coming up in a couple weeks. At the high school project, and again, there's more things on here. Asphalt is starting to go back. So the asphalt company's back. They're going to be asphalting the tennis courts, the track, the teachers' parking lot in the back, the new 80-stall teacher parking lot in the back, getting all those components done. They also have to asphalt underneath the bleachers. and get those things done. It's important that we get that rolling, especially in the stadium and the tennis courts, because that has to sit for 28 days before they can put any type of material on top of it. So we're working through that. The turf, as you can see in the one picture, but if you've driven by the high school, it's even more evident. It's green now inside the stadium. And it's looking good. They're putting the infill in. The bottom picture there, you can see that's the actual concussion pad we talked about that goes underneath the turf. But that project is moving along well. I would anticipate probably by the end of this week or first part of next week, they'll be moving over to the practice fields and starting to install the turf over in those areas as well. We also have started demoing the building on the inside. We had a little more asbestos than what we anticipated. I think it was just primarily on the roof flashing. Is that right, Jim? So we've had that tested, non-friable. Should be pretty easy to deal with for the most part. Just basically means we got to track where it goes in the landfill and things like that. So, but for the most part, we're in a pretty good spot. If you know, they've already removed the seats in the auditorium. If you didn't see them do that, they literally took a skid loader, drove it into the building, and grabbed the seats with the skid loader and pushed them right out the door. So they're not wasting any time. You know, a lot of times people ask us, hey, can I have this or can I have that? It just, what people have to understand is it's very expensive for us to salvage things, because when the salvage and demo contractors plan on coming in and doing stuff, they're planning on coming in and not having to worry about whether or not they damage the product in the process. And so we tend to say from a school district standpoint, no, if you want to talk to the contractors and if they have some interest, that's up to them. But from a school district standpoint, unless we say demo and return to owner, like we have some scoreboards and things, we usually don't get into that. Also, if you've been by the high school, we've been out of school for all of 2 days. The existing parking lot that we were using all the way up till Friday morning of last week is gone now. All of the hard surface from the front is gone. I would imagine in the next week and a half to 2 weeks, they'll be digging footings and foundations for the new addition. So it will move along very quickly. So any questions as it relates to construction? All right. My next item on there was.
By the way, that was 3 minutes and 16 seconds.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The next item I have is legislative update. First of all, we had the governor's visit, which was really a nice visit by the governor, touting his budget for education. We've definitely been in support of that. Obviously, the board signed a resolution. We sent it off to them in support of it. I had about a half hour where I got to spend with him and I talking about some different things. And I said, okay, so what is the likelihood of this happening? He feels pretty strongly that it's going to go through 200 and 204. And so he said, but you can't ever call it final until it hits his desk. So, but he is out. He's been in 44 school districts, public school districts, touting it. I will say that the couple things on the legislative update is, the budget's a huge piece. If continue to contact legislators if you have a personal relationship with Sheila or with Shannon in support. I would say that both of them, through my conversations, are very supportive of the governor's budget and not looking to chop any of it away or send it in other directions. We did get some documents that came. The difference between the Assembly's budget and the governor's budget would cost the Hudson School District about $650,000 in state aid. But it would also give the River Falls School District about $1 million more in state aid. And so obviously I've spoken pretty strongly with Shannon about it, Representative Zimmerman and Senator Harsdorf saying we like the governor's budget, obviously. And so he feels that it's probably going to pass intact as well, and that they're working through that. A couple other things, they do have some referendum bills that are starting to rear their heads, and again, it depends on the bill. At one point, there were 7 different referendum bills out there, so it's hard to know. I think the best position to take is, the local taxpayers should make the decisions on whether or not they should be raising their taxes and things. I would say that most people are not holding these special elections on odd dates like they were claiming through this. And we know that, according to Baird, you have a higher chance of passage holding them on regular held election dates than not. And so kind of working through that. And that's the biggest thing on the legislature. Really, we're just kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with this budget bill, and of course they're going to push this thing all the way till the end. And from what we're hearing from the Senate, is the Assembly's bill is a non-starting point. So we're not quite sure what that means as of yet. But
Well,
least,
yeah.
go ahead.
Other board members can chime in too, but
This is not part of my time.
I know.
Just so you know.
That's fine. But I think this is an important part, and I don't know what more we can do as a board, as a group, to emphasize this. We already did it once with a letter saying we supported Governor Walker, and I'm not saying it's fallen on deaf ears, but it seems like the Senate is supporting the governor, and in fact, the senator issued a press release 5 minutes before the Assembly announced their plan and still said that he was supporting the governor. So there's a little bit of back and forth going on there, but I don't think we should take anything for granted. I think we should be contacting our Assembly people, particularly Representative Zimmerman and maybe some of the neighboring districts as well. And, if this doesn't, I know that Speaker Voss did caution that he may not support the full 200 and 204. But with all these other extraneous bills that help other districts and don't help Hudson, and there's a list of them, we need to advocate for Hudson School District. So I know there's a lot of school districts that are maxed out and would like the revenue cap, for instance, raised. That doesn't help Hudson. There's others that would like the extra ability to fund energy projects and not have it count towards the revenue cap. Again, that doesn't help Hudson. We need to advocate for things that help Hudson School District, so I just don't take anything for granted, and we need to fight for that aid, because we're going to lose a lot of equalization aid. We lost a lot last year. We lost some the year before that. It's been a while since we saw ever any kind of increase, and we're not going in a good direction as far as how dependent we're becoming on the property tax.
Correct. Last item on there is foreign travel. This is just want to go over. We have this is been approved, but we just want to make you aware it's our last step. We do have 2 trips coming up. Tim, can you scroll down to the actual trip? So it's been signed off on me. The first one. Can you go to the actual? What was the first trip? Sorry, Spain and Germany. The reason we want to make you aware of these things is because international travel is becoming a little bit more. I think it's just something we're taking a lot more cautions on, and so as we have kids in different places around the world, these are things that have already been approved by both the board and the cabinet. But what happens is about a couple weeks out from the trip, then I go ahead and sign off on it again because we check to verify there's not any travel bans or things like that with the State Department. And then with everything that's happened in England and things along those lines, we just want to make sure everybody goes into these things with their eyes open, and so as things happen around the country or around the world, the board has an idea of where we have kids, and so that's the only reason this is in there. You guys have already looked at all the requests and the proposals and things along those lines.
So this week we have 2 groups, one going to Spain and one going to Germany.
Yep. 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 Yep.
Hopefully DC will be safe. All right. Is there any other questions?
Good.
All right. Moving on then to.
I'm sorry, I did not post tomorrow's construction agenda, so I apologize for that.
Okay.
As you move forward on this, you'll have to think about,
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So Tim just kind of brought up that we don't have a posted construction meeting agenda for tomorrow, so we are going to probably have to either reschedule or postpone because we have to post 24 hours notice. And since we don't have that posted, so I guess I would ask, I think it's part of the president's report as I go through here, the construction committee, so I'll turn it over to you, talk about the committee and determine whether or not. There'll always be, there'll be, if there's.
Well, first of all, just talk about construction committee, because construction committee is made up of 3 individuals, and it only needs to be posted, and we've only been doing it out of extra caution. How many people here would be planning on going? Because if we have 4 board members, then it's got to be posted.
Well, we got to post it. We got to post it to have it at all because it's a board approved committee. So do you understand what I'm, so if we don't post it ahead of time, we have to have it posted for 24 hours. Even members of the committee can't meet.
Okay. Well, but it's not like our agenda has changed.
Yeah, it's been a lot of
identical
updates.
a change.
It's been a lot of
the
updates.
identical agenda
Yep.
every time, but that's fine. We, I guess as far as the selection of the committee, what I was anticipating, first of all, is that I would appoint Bruce as chair, and I would be Bruce's backup as the chair. Bruce wasn't going to make tomorrow's meeting if it was held anyway, and I would have been the backup. But my thought was with Rob and Sue's experience, and that maybe we continue them as the primary members, but that we have designated, Sandy is offered to be a backup and has served as a backup, so has Carrie. They would be our primary backups to the meeting. We want to avoid, absences, especially where no one's filling the slot. But if there's times where you're traveling, you're going to be gone, then notify me or Nick or Tim Miner, and then we'll get somebody in place, and so we can make the necessary calls. But right now, that's how I'm inclined. And again, it's one of those things, we're not quite halfway done through the project. Depending on how it's working out, if we need any further changing of membership. The main thing is to have 3 people there, and so we'll do that. We'll always have a chair and 2 at-large members ready to roll, but that's how I would see the starting on June 27th and with no meeting tomorrow. No meeting tomorrow because it didn't get posted. And we're still planning on a meeting on June 27th? Is that true, Nick?
Yes.
All right. So,
It's a Tuesday.
yeah. All right. So we weren't, all right. So that is going to be the next meeting of the construction committee, all right? Otherwise, it's virtually every other week. I think on that schedule, if you saw, there's 2 that have question marks. One is July 25th because we were going to have a work session on the 24th that got changed due to Nick's schedule. So likewise, I'm assuming the 25th would be off, or?
We'd probably cancel the 25th. Yep.
And then March 6th has a question mark behind it because is that spring break?
We definitely would cancel over spring break.
All right. So take those 2 dates that have question marks and just,
I mean, I can leave that up
Cut
to the
those out.
chair of
Yeah.
the committee. If they,
That's right.
I mean, if they want to have.
but again, also, that's something that would be subject to rescheduling wherever needed. Like if we're running into a part of the meeting where we definitely need a committee to meet to approve some change order that can't wait until the board meets, then that's the whole idea of having these construction committee meetings, so. All right, any other questions on that? All right, very good, then moving on to topics for action.
Mr. President,
Rob,
within the consent items, I'd like to pull Nick's Dr. Olett's contract out for discussion.
all right, that will be pulled. Anything else? All right, I will entertain a motion then.
Mr. President,
Yes, Rob.
I move approval of the consent items and that the Director of Financial Services be authorized to pay bills in the amount of $5,805,947.48.
Is there a second? All right, Carrie seconds the motion from Rob. All in favor of the consent agenda items, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, there's one item that was pulled for discussion. We'll take that up before we move on with the rest of the action items. And that is Dr. Olett's contract, which this will be his 3rd contract. He was hired with a 2-year contract. That's basically what the statute allows, is a 2-year contract. And typically it's under the consent agenda, but Member Brown has asked for that to be pulled. We had board meetings, I think this is the fourth time it's been on the agenda. Fifth time? Where we've either talked about his performance evaluation and/or his next contract and whether to renew the contract. Under law or by the terms of the contract, if we weren't going to renew, that would be like getting down to the last 6 months, but in the practice over the last, well, this will be the second time we've renewed it.
Mr.
And-
President?
Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
Where's it listed in this consent agenda? Because I'm not seeing it.
Would be under changes. So personnel,
Changes.
8-2.
Oh, personnel changes?
personnel
8-8.
changes. So then there's a tab on the bottom. They're really faint to see, and then there it is. Line item 16 is Dr. Olet's contract.
Mr. President, may I
Yes.
ask you a question? You solicited from us via, I think Tim Miner sent it out, the contract with the changes.
That's correct.
And then you asked for feedback. I sent none because I didn't have any disputes with it. Did you receive other responses from board members? I'm just curious.
Only Rob. And I was going to make that point was that we had a meeting, 6 o'clock last week, special meeting to specifically discuss Dr. Olet's contract. We did that for half an hour. The board gave me parameters within which to negotiate. I negotiated with Dr. Olet, and from our discussion, I thought our contract is consistent with what the board discussed. And that, but just to be verified, I had the school attorney make the changes that we discussed, and the school attorney was with us during that closed session. And after she was done redlining the previous contract, that's when I had Tim Miner send it out to all of you. So, with
Mr.
that-
President.
Yes.
And so with regards to the contract, I ran through it. You and I had a conversation this morning. The total sum that we talked about that you and I originally agreed on was $231. But after doing some further review, found that the contract appears to be more along the lines of $247. And
Well, first of all, you should clarify, Rob, because
Certainly.
you're talking about things that the rest of the people in the room and the people watching haven't been here. And by 231, you're talking about the amount of the base salary plus the fringe benefit package.
Correct. And furthermore, the information that in total was the original conversation around, I thought in total the salary fringe, everything was 231, to which you agreed. And then after digging into the contract, found that it was considerably more. And again, I think the world of Nick, certainly. I think he's done a fantastic job. I did participate in his review and so on, and I'm in agreement that Nick is certainly somebody that we want to keep in our district. That said, looking at other districts through the state, this contract, this next year would put him in top 10. Hudson School District currently is 27th largest in the state. His salary would be in the top 10. It would be potentially on par with that of the Green Bay school superintendent, which, and if he deserves it, if this board thinks so, I think that's fantastic. Again, I think highly of Nick. What I'm looking for is fair to Nick, certainly, because we want to keep him here, but also fair to our taxpayers, frankly. And just quickly going through the contract, I think I found two issues. One I shared with you as far as K, specifically talks about graduate courses. There's a smartphone reimbursement, but then directly below it says no cell phone reimbursement.
Yeah, I talked to the school attorney about that, and we can strike the word smartphone from that one paragraph, and then there's no overlap. What it does is it allows an expense account, which I talked to the I don't know where you're getting your 247, Rob. That's the thing, is that it's factually incorrect to say his fringe benefit total is 247. It's not. And I spoke to the school attorney, and the $3,000 expense account is not a fringe benefit. And
Okay.
you noticed the sick leave change, which is the one area of the contract we discussed. Again, if you'd have been attending the closed session, then you would have understood the background to that. But there is not going to be any payout for sick leave until year 6 of Nick's contract.
Sure. You know, and I guess I'd
So
like
it does
to-
not count as a fringe benefit for this year because he's not going to qualify for it this year.
Certainly. And I'd like to apologize for not attending the 6 o'clock session. You know, originally when we talked, we had, at least I thought, that our attorney was going to be here for school board education. As much as I'd love to learn more about school policy, my daughter was graduating 8th grade that night, was going to receive some recognition, and had family in town. We had dinner prior to, which was already arranged. We saw the agenda the evening before, which said, by the way, we're going to review Nick's contract. And from a timing perspective, I couldn't make it work. So my apologies for not being here, hence my discussion with you this morning prior to the board meeting. The other, and as far as the total, you know, granted the $3,000, whether fringe or not, if it doesn't include the self-fund, I would agree, would not. But we're looking at a rough increase then, if we take the $3,000 out, of 244 over the 217.
Again, that's not correct, but go ahead.
Well,
Finish
and
your
I
point.
sent you this spreadsheet, so I'm not exactly sure what you're discounting. Anyway, so, and again, I just, what I'm hoping to is for the district to be fair to Nick, but also be, you know, fair to our community. Certainly want to keep Nick here. You know, I've heard from you that, well, we don't want to lose Nick, but certainly if the only reason a person stays is because of the salary, then the person's likely short-lived anyway. So as we make our decision tonight, you know, certainly willing to, you know, answer any further questions on some of the items that I've brought up, but,
Mr. President?
Yes.
Move to take a vote on the issue.
Second.
Well, we don't have a,
Not on the
we
issue.
have to have a motion.
Motion to
the
approve,
question.
to approve Nick's contract.
No, I believe you have to call the question first because he,
Well, Rob commented on it. It was pulled from the agenda. He's made his comment. I don't know if he's got any more comments.
Okay.
But there is a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Motion from Bruce to approve the contract
second.
as written and as forwarded to all board members. And just to follow up on Sue's comment, we do have a member not present. And I followed up specifically because I knew she wasn't going to be here, and I asked her, is there any deviation from what we discussed in our closed session? And she said no. So she had no question at all. So, all right. Any other comments then? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
nay.
Motion passes. Next on the agenda is Policy Series 200. This is our second reading, which is our fourth.
It's the fourth time it's in front of you. Nothing has changed, so this would be the official reading. If you approve the second reading, it now becomes board policy, the 200 series.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. Next up is the proposed creation of tax incremental district number 5. And is this an appointment of a person to a committee? Is
Yep.
that-
Yep. So, just as we kind of work through this, they've been contacted by the city's law firm or public finance group, and essentially what it is the city of Hudson is looking at doing a TIF district for the dog track site. What it requires is a joint review board. It's made up of members of the taxing entities that it would impact. There's 4 entities. There's the city, the school district, the county, and the technical college. And so what happens is, you can see in the literature here, we would have a joint review board meeting on the 20th. I would advise the board that they would appoint me as the district's representative for the joint review board as we work through this. But at that point, we'll be working with the city to understand what the full tax increment financing district is, the length of time, some of those different components that'll happen. Really that first meeting, I think, is primarily informational. It's always a double-edged sword when we look at TIF, because essentially what TIF does is it freezes the value of the current district at its current property value, and we only get then taxes based off of its current value. And then any difference in which the property grows in value, that money goes into basically a pool. The increased property taxes would go into a pool, and typically what happens is the city then would collect that and would issue that back to the developer for improvements on the project. It's an opportunity to use taxes to incentivize people to develop. The final project development is anywhere from $150 to $200 million when done, is what I've been told by the mayor. The good thing, if you think about this long term, is this TIF district is for 17 years. The city does have a history of closing their TIFs early. They did close the St. Croix Business Park early. And so what happens is, as soon as that TIF district closes, sometimes what will happen is we can get money that either wasn't used in the TIF district. They'll redistribute that back to the taxing entities. The other thing is then that goes up to full value for us to use against our taxable valuation. So although we may not get the tax value out of it initially, I think in the end, developing that site would be an economic benefit to the area, which in turn should drive the value of a lot of other things up, which should in turn help the district. So, my professional opinion on this would be that the district would support the TIF. That dog track's been sitting 15, 17 years. Sandy, maybe you know how long it's been sitting?
About 20.
About 20 years. So
99, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
So we're not. So for the last 20 years, we're not. We haven't got much out of it. And so, my thought is if somebody would have did this, 17 years ago and would have TIF'd it then and got it developed, we'd be enjoying the benefits now. And so at some point we need to get that it's kind of an albatross around the neck of the city.
Mr.
going.
President,
Yes, Sandy.
that property needs this TIF district.
Yeah.
I'm going to come out completely for this because it's been sitting there, and the TIF districts typically are not done unless the property is blighted or has some problem. They're not done just randomly by
It's blighted.
municipalities. This is a blighted property, been sitting there almost 20 years. Can you imagine what they're going to do there, how much revenue that's going to draw into the city? And I'm not talking, we're not going to get a tax revenue off of what they're doing there, but I'm talking about restaurants and hotels and things that the people that are going to live in that district are going to utilize while they're here. It's a win-win for everybody to do this, and I hope that the community gets behind it. Some people think a TIF district is, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get any tax money. Well, you're not for a while, but eventually you do. And it's a great opportunity to get that property developed.
Yeah, it's about $30 million in tax incentives they'll be providing the developer, I think, is what it is. And this is one of those things where it's about looking long term more than short term. And like you said, the St. Croix Business Park was a TIF district, and we have some really wonderful businesses out there because of that, and services that we use. So I guess what I'm asking tonight would be that that you would appoint me the district's representative of the TIF. It's typically the administrator of the taxing district, and then 2, give me direction on how you'd like me to represent the district.
Do you need a motion for that?
I would need a motion
I move-
to appoint me the representative.
I move to appoint our superintendent as representative to the TIF board.
Second.
All right, so the motion's been made and seconded for the appointment, and when I first saw this, I didn't think of you. I thought they were looking for a member of the board, but you're fine to serve on this?
Yep.
All right.
Well, you're familiar with the principles.
Mr.
Yep.
President.
Yep.
All right, Bruce?
On this document that we're going through, it also does list Mr. Grambo. Just curious, is that for an initial conversation, or would that be something that also would be looking at going forward? Like on the bottom, there's just a number of individuals there.
So what they did is these are all individuals that they sent the document to ensure that each taxing entity
Would have a representative.
would have a representative,
Okay.
and to make sure that it didn't end up in the collective junk mail.
You mean Dave doesn't want to sit through another meeting?
So, yeah. So.
Okay.
And I think Sue had a comment or a question.
Sue, do you have a comment or a question?
Okay.
Well, we have just the one motion, and then we take a second motion as to what direction for
Yep.
Nick, or we could, yeah. So all those in favor of appointing Nick as the district's representative, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion passes. And now, as far as direction of support or opposition,
Motion to approve support of the TIF district, or TIF, how would I phrase
Well,
that?
and understand that, one of the things that I'll be doing is I'll be bringing back to the board the project plan and going through all of that. So, one of the things I said to the mayor was, are we going to finally find out who this large corporate anchor is? I said, we're going to need to know who that is before we vote yes on it. And he said we're driving a pretty hard bargain. But because I've been asking him just about weekly who that's going to be. But the final vote on that, from what I understand, won't happen until probably July. I will bring that back to the board, and more than likely we will have a board meeting prior to that vote, because we won't vote the first meeting. But I just wanted to make sure, just in case we don't have a meeting for that vote, that I have an idea of the direction you'd like me to head.
Mr. President?
yes.
Just, Nick, do you have specifics as far as what you need to hear from Bruce or the motion?
Yeah, the specifics is, I guess what I would like is direction that one, acquire information, and two, the preliminary look at this from the board is that, we're in support of it
Well,
preliminarily.
but we could also make the motion, and I would strongly encourage, is to just allow you to use your discretion. Because I don't feel comfortable saying, yeah, we're definitely in favor of, and I don't feel comfortable voting on that, especially if the big corporate anchor turns out to be a client of my law firm. That would be really bad. So
Yeah.
I think that instead, we just should have a motion to just support whatever Nick's discretion is in that regard.
Can we just make a comment?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. My comment would be, now I'm nervous about who the big backer is, but I hope it's someone like, say, from Wisconsin and say, not Kansas or something,
Well, I would tell you, from what I understand, it's
You have
actually.
something against Kansas?
I'm not a Jayhawk fan, but it's 2,000 to 3,000 jobs, from what I understood talking to the mayor. It's actually a corporation that has offices in Wisconsin, Minnesota, and one other state, and they're looking to relocate all three of those to Hudson into one large corporate headquarters. And so, just kind of, I've heard kind of speculation, but I would hate to speculate at this point who the area in which they're operating.
Right.
But there are going to be things on top of that corporate anchor. There's also the ball fields that they're talking about with the semi-professional ball teams. There's also I think a 40,000 square foot restaurant and brewery. I think that's Liftgate Brewery is moving over from Stillwater to Hudson.
Liftbridge?
Or Liftbridge.
You drink Diet Coke, it's okay.
Yeah.
Seriously?
I think they make soda. But the other thing, there's going to be a large indoor rec center, I believe, that's also looking at going there. Not like a YMCA, but like a large indoor rec facility, indoor turf type of thing, and then a large convention center and / hotel, 300 room, I think, hotel. So again, the interesting thing is that corporate anchor, because that kind of everything is pivoting on that, and I think in order for them to get everything lined up, they got to be ready to go with the TIF. So, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so I'd
You
change my
withdraw?
motion, withdraw my motion and support a new motion that would, or put in a new motion to, advise Nick to use his discretion as he works through the process and continue to update us as he moves through that, the joint review board.
Second.
All right. There's a motion, a second. Anybody have a question as to what the motion is? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion is approved, and Nick is appointed the representative with the ability to use his discretion. All right, next we have administrative recommendations for two
Yep.
rather important hires.
Yep.
So, Nick, I'll turn it over to you.
Yep. Our first hire is a recommendation for our new middle school principal. Jim DeLune is who we're recommending to be the new middle school principal. Jim couldn't be here tonight in his current position as the middle school principal in Prescott. His mentor, who is the high school principal, was having his retirement kind of get together tonight, and he said, you know, although he would like to be here to talk with the board, he felt it, you know, appropriate to tie up the loose ends in Prescott, which totally understood. So we'll get Jim in front of the board here sometime in the next few months so you get an opportunity to meet him. Jim is no stranger, however, to the Hudson community. Jim was an assistant principal in the Hudson Middle School for quite a few years. Has been down at Prescott for the last 4 years as the middle school principal. Excited to have Jim back. His wife, I believe, teaches in the district as well. Just had their youngest child graduate from Hudson High School just a Saturday ago, and so this I think is going to be a great addition to the team. And I think it's exactly what his skill set is exactly what Hudson Middle School needs right now. So very excited to recommend him to be our next middle school principal.
I noticed that his name did get on the list of changes or intakes, actually, for our consent agenda, and we approved the consent agenda. So, do we still need a motion to approve him?
Yeah, I think
It's
it'd be nice to
largely
have
symbolic.
I think to have a formal.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. And then we have the middle school associate. What's that?
High school associate.
High school. Thank you. I didn't have my agenda in front of me. We got different ones to fill here. High school associate principal.
And
This would be taking Kevin's spot.
this, yes. So this will be taking Kevin Moore's position. Josh, why am I drawing a blank on his name?
Halverson.
I mean, I just spent half the day with Josh today. But drawing a blank on his name. Yeah, Josh Halverson has been with the district quite a while. He was a teacher. He's been dean of students. We had a great pool of candidates, 21, I think, that were signed up for the assistant principal position at the high school. So he will be taking over for Kevin. Kevin will definitely be missed. Kevin, as you know, is leaving us to go be the high school principal in his wife's hometown. So it's a unique opportunity for him and a unique opportunity for his family. Josh will be outstanding. He'll be able to hit the ground running, being at Hudson High School and understanding the background and what goes on there. Josh has a tremendous skill set that he brings to the job. You know, one of the things I think that describes Josh the most is he brings a sense of calm similar to what Kevin does to sometimes chaotic situations, and that's always good to have in a assistant principal. And so Peg and her team, along with several district administrators and teachers, interviewed for that position. And so we would recommendation would be to hire Josh Halverson as the new high school associate principal.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And,
Move to adjourn.
all right. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. We are adjourned.